Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to meeting number 13 of the West Lincoln Council. This is actually a combined meeting this evening. It is all committees and council, so it perhaps will be a little bit longer. It is to save meetings, but it certainly isn't to save time. Before we get started, I would like to introduce the person beside me. Our new CAO has joined us this evening, Mr. Trooper McBride, and we're happy to have him in this spot. And our interim CAO has returned to her more comfortable spot, I think, as Director of Finance / Treasurer. And Donna, we do thank you publicly for the time that you gave us. Thank you very much. So a bit of a welcome and a bit of a welcome back from your staff, I'm sure, Donna. So welcome to Trooper and welcome back to Donna. We're going to start this evening with the singing of O Canada. Please stand if you're able. This evening, the recording is Cairn Christian School. Thank you. So, as you know that we have another seat missing, Councillor Riley is here. He's joining us online this evening. So we do have full council out this evening. So prior to commencing with this meeting, I'd like to make the following announcements. Comments from the public for a matter that is on the agenda may be provided in person by attending the meeting and advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. Or two, for those individuals that are unable to attend the meeting in person, you may always have the opportunity to submit comments for matters that are on the agenda by either emailing jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and can be part of the public record, or alternatively by contacting the Clerk's Department to request a Zoom link to attend the meeting virtually. Tonight's council meeting will be live streamed as well as recorded and available on the township's website. We'll begin this evening, as always, with the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattah-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis and Inuit, from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And Councillor Chichok, you have the opening petition this evening, I believe.
I do, Madam Mayor, thank you. We gather together here today, intent on working on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal faiths give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us.
Thank you, Councillor. So because this is an all-committee meeting, we start this evening actually with two public meetings. So the first public meeting is a public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application by the Township of West Lincoln. It's actually a housekeeping amendment number 8, file number 1601-005-24. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 12, that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, Council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendments, and any comments received will be taken into account by Council in their consideration. The Planning Act requires through Section 34, subsection 13, that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or OLT. So I'm going to ask the clerk to please advise of the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given. Mr. Clerk.
Proper notice was given by way of advertising in the local newspaper, mail circulation to all property owners where there are site-specific zone changes proposed, and postings on the township website and in the Township Administration Building on June 20th, 2024.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Senior Planner Susan Smythe to please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment. So Susan, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council and committee, and also members of the public who are here this evening and remote. I am here to present the technical report that pertains to Township Housekeeping Bylaw Amendment 8th edition, since the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2017-70 came into effect in June of 2017. Since then, the function of the bylaw has been well received township-wide. However, there have been some minor revisions and new opportunities that have been brought to staff's attention that require some refinements to be more effective and to align with recent provincial legislation and proposed changes to the provincial policy statement. Please note that this draft bylaw is just that. It is a draft copy of suggested amendments to the zoning provisions and regulations that are considered appropriate by staff as a result of comments received by members of council, various consulting firms representing the development community, and the public. Staff is here to listen to the comments received this evening, in addition to comments received via letters and any correspondence that were provided after preparation of this report, which I do believe councils have copies of. Please note that staff will not reiterate any of those comments that were received, although please note that we are open to further discussions and will examine all of the feedback before presenting a formal recommendation report with the amending housekeeping bylaw. Fundamentally, the goal of these amendments are to be consistent and conform to provincial and regional policies and directives for efficient use of the land and development patterns that support the strong, livable, and healthy communities, as well as protecting the environment and public health, and to facilitate economic growth within the township. To that point, the main areas in the zoning bylaw that required some updates included the definition section. Particularly, some of the regulations in the bylaw would identify terms, yet there was no definition provided. So therefore, staff referred and received some clarification and definitions from provincial documents, such as the PPS, and or used terms or definitions that were taken directly from the township's official plan. Please note that there may be terms and definitions including in this proposed amendment that may require further refinement so that they are more precise with the intent of what needs to be considered, and staff is open to further discussions. The next section that required some refinement was section 3.1 and accessory buildings and structures, where staff recognized through planning application reviews that for larger agricultural parcels, the placement of accessory buildings and structures with minimal visual impacts on neighboring properties or from the street view, that these buildings can be permitted in all yards, with the exception that they are to be no closer than 30 meters to the front lot line, and that they shall maintain the distance and clustering around other main or principal uses to avoid the loss of active agricultural land and or land that can be actively farmed. Consistent with the goals of the official plan, particularly for agricultural areas, staff considers opportunities for the promotion of viable agricultural industry and for the production of food and crops to enhance employment and strengthen the economic well-being of West Lincoln is very important and should be supported. Additionally, staff promotes agricultural land holdings that increase the flexibility of farm operations and avoid the fragmentation of land ownership, as well as reduce the impact of non-farm uses on agricultural lands by encouraging incompatible uses to locate within the designated settlement areas. To that point, amendments to Section 3.21 for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs for short, has been amended several times to address provincial legislation over the course of many years, particularly when it relates to affordable housing. And the emphasis and focus of the amendments were dedicated primarily to the settlement areas of the township, where either they're on full municipal services or the availability for private septic systems, with the emphasis to minimize number of non-farm uses, including the additional residential units on agricultural lands. Therefore, the presented amendments, staff is recommending to have the ADUs made accessible and inclusive units, that being barrier-free with no stairs, and that they should not be obligated to be on the second floor of detached accessory buildings, primarily in the settlement areas, and to maintain the maximum size of 100 square meters, as well as maintaining them as secondary uses. At this time, staff is recommending that the ADUs in the rural and agricultural areas are to be contained on the second story of a detached accessory structure, and/or to permit the garden suites and/or an ADU within the main building, housing. Section 324, garden suites, to avoid any misinterpretation of what a garden suite is, staff has recommended adding an additional clause which further describes what a garden suite shall be considered, therefore identifying it as a four-season unit and subject to the Ontario Building Code regulations and approved by the chief building official. Again, for a matter of being consistent with the intent of what the regulation is to provide, the current bylaw has provisions for private garages. And Section 312.6 and 312.7, where the width of the garage for the sake of being considered a parking space was not consistent, and this has then since been revised accordingly. More specific to the urban settlement areas, the proposed amendments to the building heights for medium and high-density residential units like stacked and/or back-to-back townhouses and/or apartment buildings will provide for alternatives for ground parking spaces and the necessary flexibility in strategic locations throughout the township to optimize opportunities for new development geared to intensify land available for growth in a compact built form. The amenity area for medium and high-density residential units are amended again to remain at 40% for those units geared to townhouses and apartment units. And this will help to reduce conflicts with the land to accommodate private driveways as well as front yards with smaller frontages and lot sizes. If the developments cannot achieve the required amenity areas, staff is recommending justification by the developers to identify what is required and/or give examples of parkland dedication and/or multi-use trails in its place. Staff recommended the inclusion of a mixed-use commercial zone. This zone will promote for new opportunities to complement the residential uses, which can take various forms and allow for efficient use of land that encourages pedestrian connections, such as multi-use trails, into new neighborhoods as well as existing neighborhoods to reduce the reliance on vehicle use. The mixed commercial use zones will blend multiple uses, such as residential, commercial, institutional, and open space, where they can be physically and functionally integrated. In conclusion, planning staff is asking committee and council to receive this technical report for information, and a formal recommendation will be submitted at a later date considering all comments received this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I'm now going to go to members of the public. Are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present in the meeting, either in person or Zoom, regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendments? I'd like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to these housekeeping amendments. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this public meeting would like to make comments and/or provide written comments, they should do so now. If you are attending virtually and would like to provide comments, you can do so by using one of the two options. Option 1, either using a computer or a smartphone, select the raise your hand control that can be found on the Zoom options list displayed on your screen. Or option 2, using a landline or telephone, dial *9. This will notify staff that you have raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It is important to provide your comments now if you have not done so in writing or verbally, as the OLT may not consider comments made during any other council and/or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak is required to unmute their microphone to talk, and once they're finished, they should mute their microphone again. Prior to speaking, please provide your name and address for the record. So I'm going to go back to my original question. Are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present in the meeting, either in person or Zoom, regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? Anything? Nothing online? Okay, thank you. You didn't receive anything further? Okay, so seeing none, I'm going to move to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral or written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendments? Please note that members of committee must also make their comments now, as the OLT may not consider comments made at any other council or committee meeting. Any member of council wishing to speak is required to unmute their microphone to talk, and once they're finished, they should again remute your microphone. So, Councillor Chichok, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to address this bylaw. It has certainly been one that has been, seemed to have a long delivery time, and a number of the community are looking for things that will make their lives a little simpler. I have spoken with staff, and I know that my comments have been written down, and I don't plan to bore any members of council or the community tonight about the questions I did have, but I do have a couple areas that I think we need to pay attention to. And I want it on the record that my comments made earlier to staff, as well as I've been given the opportunity to come in and complete those comments because we ran out of time. I will be not boring you all, but I will be attending to a staff meeting. Anyone who wants to come is more than welcome. But I think that, let me sum this up by saying that the balance between saving agricultural lands and the changing needs of farming today are important. And the fact that we understand things in a manner that other agencies, whether it's OFA, OFVGA, or FVGO, all those are acronyms for some sort of an agricultural society, that is writing letters to the province today and saying that there is a terrible inconsistency between communities in one region, like Niagara, or across the province, and they're looking for some sort of semblance of order to make definitions, etc., commonality, so that in Hamilton I don't have to have a bunkhouse, for instance, and under one set of guidelines, only to find out if I cross Woodburn Road, I remember this time, Woodburn Road, that I've got a whole different array of requirements. So I think we need to make sure that we've reached out, looked at different things, seen what other agencies are looking at for change as well, because those may be coming in another one of the iterations from the province, as we see happen often. Secondly, I find it very difficult living in the rural area, and let me put that on the table. I do live in the rural area, and I do represent the farming community by and large, along with Councillor Bradwick. And I am sure that both of us can tell you that it seems to be a terrible disregard for cost and or the aging farmer, who in Ontario his average age is about 68 years, and we're saying that granny suites. And granny suites normally talk to a generation of people who are a little older than the 21-year-old. But we're saying that in farmland, in the agricultural area, that those granny suites are proposed to be put on the second floor of an existing building, whether it's a garage or whether it is some other type of building. I find that terribly onerous, because as people age, their knees might just not work as much, and to ask for it to be on the second floor means people with mobility issues will not be able to stay on the farm and allow for their family to have a continuation within the house if the house is not suitable. And building onto a property is much more costly than, in fact, establishing a granny suite in an already existent building. That I have mentioned to our staff, and they've assured me that they will look at that, but I notice it to be still something that is front and center in this bylaw amendment. And I really, really struggle with the need for it. Most farms exist in a kind of a compound area where there's a barn or storage buildings or various other buildings that create a presence in a site, perhaps up to 2 acres. We've given other people who have tried to do separations on their farms for accessory buildings or for redundant homes on their farms when they sell. We've given them up to 2 acres. I'm not saying all of them, but I find it very difficult if we can find a spot to put that building on, to put that granny flat, additional dwelling unit, whatever we want to call it, on ground level. And I won't belabor that any further. I see my colleagues have understood it. I know Councillor Bradrick has heard the same concern many times, and so I don't want to take all of the thunder, but I'm very, very dismayed at the fact that we would be insisting that it be on a second floor in an agricultural area. As far as garden suites, I have no problem with it being a 4-season building. Most people would build to that standard, and even if the residents of that property have gone to Florida and have become snowbirds, the building should be in a fashion built to withstand the changing weather conditions. I guess the other thing that concerns me is when we talk about principal building on a vacant piece of land is a principal building needn't be a farm, be a house, but when I think about jobs and bringing ecotourism to West Lincoln, we have one winery right now. We may have others. We have other needs. I can think of a wood shop that has a building, needed a building. That became so discouraging that they moved to town, which may be the right place for them. But many businesses like those can be resident on the agricultural skirt of the existing farm without damaging 100 acres. So I say that we need to look at the fact that whether it's processing for foods generated in Niagara, because there is no processing plants in Niagara at this moment, and we do have our farmlands getting more expensive, but where we do have lands that are available and questionable at best, as they've been used for something else, but are still zoned agricultural. If we have unobtrusive businesses that could bring interest to West Lincoln, and or if we have the need for additional dwelling units, we need to look at each case in and of itself and not require so much regulation on people having to go to Committee of Adjustment or having to go to OLT for those kinds of minor adjustments that we need to consider at this point. So I have a number of other comments. I will make those to Susan. I will send copies of my comments to all of council. I do believe Susan has agreed that we will meet. So we'll look at those things, and I do want to make sure that with every housekeeping amendment we are making, that we do it in a prudent, quick way, so periodically rather than once a year, and or that we look at it in the entirety of our community and not say that older people in the rural community have to think about climbing stairs or getting an elevator, an escalator, or something to go up and down to their units.
Thank you,
I'm very
Councillor.
harsh on that one.
You've made that point clearly.
If I haven't, let me say it one more
And in actual fact, I think many of us agree. So,
Okay.
so well made on that point.
Thank you.
Councillor Bradrick.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Chichuk that the need for the expansion to the accessory dwelling units being allowed on ground floors in the rural area would be most applicable as, the entire population ages and the needs for each farmer may be different. And as Councillor Chichuk alluded to, that Farmers may age and their home that they have lived in for many years may no longer be applicable, and a family member may be taking that over, and it makes more sense for them to live in the accessory dwelling unit. And with not allowing that to be as accessible from the get-go, just seems to me to make little sense, and that it should be thought through that we're allowing that in our rural areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you. No? There's nothing more to say? Okay, Councillor Trombetta, thank you. And Councillor Rayner's back having some technical difficulties, so we'll give him a minute. But it says refresh, oh dear.
No, it said crashed. It said crashed.
Oh, no. So let me just say that as I read through, I also agree. I was really pleased to see that there were some changes being made, and that the issue of garden suites was being more clearly articulated. And it reminded me, and I actually dug out a brochure that we put out several years ago when we had an issue with site alteration and how many loads of soil were available where and whatever. And so when I saw the notion of a brochure going out, I sort of did a hooray in my mind, because I think that there are lots of things that we do that people don't understand. And I think however we look to improving communication of what we're doing and what we're providing to the public, the better. So that would be my comment, and we'll see if Councillor Rayner has anything further that you want to add. Nothing further? Okay, so thank you then. Okay, so please be advised. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, Councillor, well, good, you're monitoring that. I can't see him on my screen, so do we know if Councillor Riley is interested in, have you heard? Okay. I don't, oh, we can, yes, we can.
Okay, I have no further comment. I think everyone kind of covered all the concerns I had, so I look forward to seeing a report in the future. Thank you.
Okay, but at least we now know that you can hear and that you can participate. Thank you, Councillor.
What is this on?
Okay. So please be advised that a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening. Once the committee and/or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendments, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated within an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please ensure that you email the clerk, Justin Palov, at jpalov@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who's interested in observing council and/or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at council and/or at committee meetings. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township's website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the township's website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise of your request and include your email address along with your mailing address and your phone number. So I will now adjourn this public meeting at the hour of 7:01. And that concludes meeting number 1, and we will move to public meeting number 2 this evening. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is to consider an application for a temporary use bylaw submitted by Darren Fossart, agent, Jana and Frank Bulk, applicants, for 4961 Canberra Street, file number 1601-006-24. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 12, and Section 39, that before passing a temporary use bylaw, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the application. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the proposed temporary use bylaw. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act requires through Section 34, subsection 13, that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or OLT. So, Mr. Clerk, would you please advise the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Proper notice was given by way of email circulation to agencies and mail circulations to all residents within 120 meters of the subject property on June 14th, 2024. Public notice was also posted to the subject property, the township website, and the township administration building on June 14th, 2024.
Thank you. So will Manager of Planning Garrett Borma please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed temporary use bylaw? Mr. Borma.
Thank you. An application for a temporary use bylaw has been submitted by Frank and Jana Balk on behalf of the property owners, Darren and Alicia Fauser, for their property located at 4961 Canberra Road in the hamlet of Wellandport. The subject property is nearly 1 hectare in size and contains a single detached dwelling. The property is zoned residential R1A, environmental conservation and environmental protection. The applicants are requesting to place a mobile home on the property as a garden suite for a period of 20 years. They are proposing to locate it to the west of the house, meeting all of the required setbacks and zone regulations. The proposed garden suite is proposed at 67.6 square meters and is proposed to have a new septic system. The unit is proposed to be occupied by the parents of the owners. If approved, the owners would have to enter into a temporary use agreement with the township, and that would ensure that the unit is properly serviced and that it is removed after the 20-year time frame, or when it is no longer needed by the owners. No public comments were received as part of this application. Staff did receive a number of comments from agencies and departments. The Conservation Authority, NPCA, has no objection to the proposed unit, as it is outside of the regulated floodplain. The Township Public Works Department, as well as the Region of Niagara, also had no objections. The proposed septic servicing plan is still currently being reviewed by the Township Septic Inspector, and those comments will be provided in the future recommendation report. At this time, planning staff can recommend that a recommendation report be brought forward at a future committee or council meeting once our review is completed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So is the applicant or their authorized agent present to speak to the application, and do you wish to speak further to the application? No. You don't have to, but you do have the opportunity if you wish to say. If you feel that Mr. Borma has represented you well enough, then if that's exactly right for you, then that's okay. Okay, so you're fine with that? It's been represented well enough and you're ready? Okay. So I'm now going to ask, are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present in the meeting, either in person or Zoom, regarding the proposed temporary use bylaw? I would like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this public meeting would like to make comments and/or provide written comments, they should do so now. If you are attending virtually and would like to provide comments, you can do so by using one of the two options, and again, I'll go through those. Option number 1, using a computer or smartphone, select the raise your hand control that can be found on the Zoom options that list displayed on your screen. Or option 2, using a landline or telephone, dial *9. This will notify staff that you have raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It's important to provide your comments now if you have not done so in writing or verbally, as the OLT may not consider comments made during any other council and/or committee meetings. Also, if anyone is wishing to speak, you're required to unmute your microphone to talk, and once you're finished, you should mute your microphone. Prior to speaking, please provide your name and address. So I'm going to look to the gallery and see if there's anyone wishing to speak to this application. And I think that Councillor Riley is the only person online, and this is not his time to do that, so I'm presuming that we'll move on from there. So do any members of committee have any oral or written submissions on the proposed temporary use bylaw? Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as the OLT may not consider comments made at any other council or committee meeting. Any member of council wishing to speak is required to unmute their microphone to talk, and once they are finished, they should again remute their microphone. So any members of council wishing to speak to this application? And no indication from Councillor Riley that he's interested? I can't see him on my screen. Okay, so we'll assume then that there are none. Please be advised that a recommendation report is being considered by the committee. Oh, no, it's not a recommendation report? It says recommendation report. That a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening. Please be advised that once committee and/or council have made a decision with respect to the temporary use bylaw, and if approved by council, a notice of the passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please ensure that you email the township clerk, Justin Paylob, at jpaylobwestlincoln.ca. Anyone who is interested in observing council and/or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus potentially miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for the posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at council and/or committee meetings. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township's website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also posted on the township's website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise of your request and include your email address along with your mailing address and your phone number. So seeing nothing further, this meeting with respect to the proposed temporary use bylaw is concluded at the hour of 7:09. And that ends that meeting. So just before moving on, I will state that although that's very repetitive if you're sitting in the audience, each of these meetings is considered a separate meeting, and the script that needs to be followed under the Planning Act is very prescribed. And so that's why you had to sit through that repetition of a second time of all of that information. So anyway, so moving on then, we now are going to look at changes in order of items on the agenda. So members of council, is there any change required tonight? Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest? Seeing none. Item 7, pardon me? Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So the suggestion here is that the technical reports that are coming up afterwards will be discussed further. If you wish to stay for either of those presentations, then you will hear further discussion. But if you want to leave, you're certainly free to leave, and the staff will get back to you. Okay, so item that usually opens our meetings is the request to address items on the agenda. And this is the first time we've had much of a gallery for almost since COVID. So I'm just going to explain that always under 6.7 of our procedural bylaw, there is an opportunity for public comments. The rules are as follows. There shall be no comments from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled, or B, an item is included under the other business or communications or appointments section of the agenda and relates to a matter which would normally be dealt with at committee. And since this is committee and council this evening, I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on the agenda as permitted under section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw. Okay, I think everybody's here with a specific purpose in mind. And I'm also going to just check and make sure, Roberta, that there's nobody online. We're good? Okay, thank you. So that does take us to item number 8, which is appointments and presentations. And 8.1 this evening, we have Luciano Di Leonardo read the introduction of the Smithville East Gateway developers and development plans to council. So, Lou, you can come forward to the presenter spot, please. Thank you. Okay, I think we trade. I can't. Well, I have 2. No, I have 2 of the same. I don't know why. They're different. Okay. Okay, as you're getting settled, we're getting our paperwork settled here. I think there were 2, and I think we ended up with multiple copies of them. Okay, Mr. Di Leonardo, when you are ready, sir.
Can you hear me? Oh, there
We
you go.
can, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce ourselves. We're the developers that are going to develop the Eastern Gateway to West Lincoln. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce ourselves. With me tonight, I have Sam Sharma and Enzo Prado. They are the owners of the land to the left of the roundabout. Mr. Severino is present with me. I am the owner of the parcel on the right side of the roundabout. Just a little bit of insight about who we are. We are not only developers, we are also builders. We do carry Terrion membership as home builders, and we have the expertise of one of my partners, Ralph Severino, who is the underground expert and constructors when it comes to surveys and roads. So I'd just like to introduce them all to you. What you see in front of you are the concept draft plans of both parcels. I want you to understand that my submission is not in yet. Keeping in mind that mine is not in. Mr. Prado's group has already submitted once. My submission will hopefully be in by the end of the month or the first week in August. We are awaiting updates on some of the studies and with some of the changes we did. So this is just an opportunity to let you guys see what we are doing. And if you have any questions or input on what you have seen, if there's any questions that you have, we're here to openly discuss them. There was only 2 points of topics that I wanted to bring up at the time of the applications going in. And the reason that I wanted to bring them up today is because they're vital to expedite the construction and building process in the near future when the plan of subdivisions are finally approved. And that would be site alteration on the parcels, and also the off-site application that will have to be coming forth in getting the road, sewer, and water on Highway 20. The reason I am bringing it up is just to have an introduction and let members of council know that we are all in-house. There's talk about, people promise things and they want to get things done and then they don't do them. Before you tonight, we are working together to get this off the ground as soon as we can. And we just want to create a good gateway development for the township. And if you have any questions regarding both parcels, anything that we're planning, we're ready to take any questions from council.
Thank you. So, based on what you've seen or what you've heard, are there any members of council who have questions for anyone on the team, I suppose?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Treble, where are we with the infrastructure for this parcel?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, my colleague to my left can probably fill in some blanks as well, but we have now the master servicing plans that look at the expansion of these lands and expansion beyond these lands. And I know there are servicing concepts that run up St. Catherine Street to include these lands as well as the lands to the southwest of the roundabout, the Alma farmlands anyway. So there are servicing concepts in the master servicing plans, and the region certainly is aware of those, and I think is in discussions with Lou about what the required improvements are in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously we know that, through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. DeLauro, obviously people want to see things go off the ground and get some housing in this area, but obviously an infrastructure issue is obviously our major issue in this municipality. Obviously through not just us, but through the region is the issue of that we're needing massive funding for infrastructure in this area, so. And through the mayor and doing her delegations at AMO and stuff coming up, if we have delegations coming up, which we're not yet.
Not approved yet,
Not
yes.
approved yet, but I think that's something that we all need, is in desperate need in West Lincoln, so. Thank you, Mr. Treble, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for that. Anything anybody else wants to add, they can.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything further to that, Mr. DiLeonardo?
Yes, Madam Mayor. To that point, Mr. Trombetta, we just want to also emphasize that the group is more than willing to front-end all costs to expedite water, sewer, and everything that's required to get these developments going. I forgot to mention that, but good question.
That's
I
pretty
think
big.
that's
help a
important.
little bit.
That's important to note. We are, and to the, my neighbors are nodding their head, we are ready to front end all on our own, and I'm sure there's going to be 1-foot reserves or whatever, but we want to get the municipality going. I know there's interest in getting housing starts. Again, the reason for this meeting tonight is to get to know who we are. We want to demonstrate that we are planning and ready to go. The hurdles are going to be the off-site, and the on-site alterations are something that could be done in advance. Once, my understanding is once the applications are in, we could apply for the on-site alterations, and proper design is now being implemented for the infrastructure on, I call it Highway 20, I think you guys call it St. Catherine Street.
And
All of that
Regional Road 20. It has several
Yeah,
names like every other
it's
place in
Highway
West
20 to
Lincoln.
me. It's been that for the last 15 years. But again, we're ready to go. We're ready to self-finance, and we'd like to get started. Another add-on to that, just to let you know what's in play already. Mr. Prado and Mr. Sharma have already instructed architectural firm to design the 150-unit condo complex that's in the corner of the block. And I don't know how I point here, but if I go like this with my mouse, right there, these two areas are going to be, this is going to be a 150-unit condo unit, okay? And next door to it is going to be a retirement building, okay? As far as 90 units. As far as my parcel, I'm still in the process of arranging items to do. There's a lot that could happen in the mixed use in this area, and also with more residential senior apartments. There's a great mix of everything here for different price points and different walks of community living with people. Just want to let you know, maybe I should give you an idea of what's happening on the site. The site on the right, which is mine, we have trail and rail going all the way around the property. I'm taking a little bit of pride in what we're doing here. I was a resident in West Lincoln. The whole idea of this is to make it a really good community with a lot of variation, and it's something that it's going to be appealing to different markets. Given where the market is going and housing requirements, there has to be affordable, the key word out there right now is affordable housing. And the only way to really achieve that, unfortunately, is to make clustered units. There's back-to-back stacked towns, and again, the buildings. So just to let you know, we're ready to go. We're ready to front-end all of the servicing requirements for both these projects.
And just so that Councilor Trombetta is aware too, you have been in touch with the region, I believe?
Yes, I have.
To try
Yeah.
to work that out.
Yeah, what we're doing with that, Madam Mayor, is they have told us that we have to get the final drawings. We already have the engineering drawings for the sites. I think we're just waiting for final, again, we're going through some amendments on my property with, the numbers are all now in. The consulting engineers with the design have all of that. Believe it or not, the site servicing is probably 90% designed already. Now with the numbers that they've achieved in the last week or two, They're ready to finalize the design for the sewer and water on St. Catherine Street. When I spoke to Susan Dunsmuir, I believe, at the region, I told her of the situation, and again, it needs to have all of the sizing. My concern when I touched base with her was that, you know, while this is going on, we want to make sure that while we're building this, we could accommodate any future expansion too. So we need to look at everything, not just our property. We need to look at everything that's around that area that we have to encompass, so there's good planning for the municipality.
Thank you. Councillor Chichok.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think that coming to introduce yourself is appreciated by all of council, I'm sure, but to go into the depths of this application would be premature, given that our staff haven't finished their review, nor has there been an exacting of units, et cetera. But what I do want to ask you is, have you done any work on the fact that in a discussion that was had at a meeting not that long ago, the point was that there was 51 acres that needed to have engineered fill
Yes.
deposited on it in order to raise everything but the stormwater management pond. The stormwater wet management pond at grade, you just have to build the walls now.
So let me explain if I can, because that's the other point that I wanted to talk. And Mr. Severino is the expert on that, but I'm just going to explain what's going to happen.
At a
I'm going
very
to get
high
up,
level.
if you don't mind, I'd rather point.
At a very high level, Mr. DiLeonardo, I don't want you
Yeah,
to...
high level, for sure, because you don't have a plan yet, so go ahead.
So just the idea of the concept here, there's three properties, this one, and there's the corner property. The corner property is in no interest of developing yet. So under the secondary plan that was issued by the region, what it did is it divided this parcel in half with drain water going this way and half of this property going that way. But because the other property owners not wanting to come on board, working together, we decided to make this line the high point, okay? So by doing that, we're going to encompass all of the stormwater management into my other parcel over here, which is going to be the main stormwater management from these two parcels. I think they're counting on the northern flow also. They're accommodating everything else that's around. So the design is all there. So what happens with the site alteration is why I wanted to bring it up. There's opportunities right now, and Mr. Severino will explain, where there's works in the area. I'm told that once we do my submission, we'll be able to apply for site alteration on the property. And what we mean by that is, so imagine this property now has to go like this. We have to bring it up like that. It's low in areas already. The preliminary engineering reports, if you take the elevations of this property line, all of these farms are up and down, so you got to imagine leveling it off. So you got to cut, fill, and import soil. It so happens that on an average on this property, Ralph, we're lifting the side here on an average of what, 13 feet?
16, top street, the second street.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the first street about 8 feet.
About 8 feet. So you can imagine the property is going this way and this way. Okay? And the property in the corner anyway, these two parcels, if you drive by down Highway 20, they're already divoted and pitted anyway. What happens in the process of development, the earth needs to be moved, topsoil needs to be moved, engineered fill has to go in place in order to get the road infrastructure and sewers and whatnot. So that's a critical issue. The reason that I wanted to have the discussion tonight is just so you know what's coming down the pipe, let's say, and it's getting the application expedited once we're ready to go and apply, because if there's anything that's going to slow down this development, it won't be the ambitions behind me, Mr. Prado and Mr. Sharma. It's going to be, when can we get the amount of soil that we need here? And just to wrap your head around the number, go ahead, Ralph, let them know roughly.
So, just to show an example.
Ralph, do you want to come up to the microphone,
Sure.
please? Okay, So remember, this is just all high-level talking, right?
Yeah.
That we're just looking so that council
We're
has,
just sharing
and the public
information.
have an understanding of what's in front of you.
Your Worship,
Sure,
the
so-
nature of my question was merely to just show that there was going to be a huge
A
difference.
lot of work to
and-
do,
And
yeah.
a lot of work yet. And the owner of the land on the corner wants to be assured that we are taking every caution to prevent their land from being
Being flooded.
affected
Exactly,
or destroyed.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And
so
I
it
think-
wasn't, we don't need this, we're way ahead of the ball, and I apologize. That will come at a public meeting, and it's not that we want to turn it off, but we really don't want to get a lot of detail, other than the fact you're accommodating the person to the west.
So maybe speak to the accommodation for the property that doesn't belong to you, Ralph, briefly, in terms of what you need to do to start, because obviously one plan is in and the other is not, and there's lots of work to be done yet. So just very high level for council, please.
Okay.
Is it on?
Okay, thank you. So basically, the property to the west, the westerly property limit, where it says proposed residential, the limit to the west is the high point for the entire development. So the entire grading will go from that high point traveling to the east to accommodate the sewers. So in order for that to work, the misconception usually is, how much fill do you need based on when you dig a basement, you're going to have all this extra material. But in this case, there is no material to take because it's deficient in material for the existing site. The entire site has to be raised first in order to build the homes. The first street, I think it's D at the very bottom, at that point there, it's roughly about 8 feet, just to that first street. Going northerly, it increases in order to get the grade for the sewers. So basically, with the original plan, the property that is owned by Sam Menenzo, that had a natural split like this. So the center line was the high point. So the engineers were designing everything so it would flow one way for all of the sewers and the water, and sewers and the water the other way. In this case, because this property does not go at the same time as one big package, you had to take this and make it like this as an exaggeration. So this difference is the deficiency in the soil. So in order to get an overall approval for the development, that's like, say, the first phase. But as soon as that approval takes place, aside from letters of credit, etc., you cannot physically start a building permit without any material there to build on. So there's so much material that is required here. To put it in perspective, a dump truck is approximately 8 to 9 cubic meters of soil. So right now, this site itself may require up to 40 to 50,000 loads of soil. So to find that kind of soil, you're not going to find it from somebody that's digging 10 homes a year and dispose of 30 loads per unit and expect to build this in a timely manner. So where I come into play in terms of an advisor for Sam and Enzo and with my business partner is sometimes there's opportunities for tender that we take a look at where there's export of material from that site. So there's another property that may be in excess of suitable material that would meet the requirement of a Table 1, which is residential fill, but you'd have to have the availability to take that material. So as this process moves along, we're trying to see if there's a way to get a semi-permission to strip the property up to a certain level in order to make way for fill to be imported when it is available. We wouldn't do anything ahead of time without having the fill available. So right now, last Friday, as an example, there was a tender that was out. It was $8 million, and all it was moving soil. That's all it was. But it's an export site. So that export site, there's roughly 80,000 meters that could come off of that site. But at that point in time, I closed the tender twice, actually. A week ago Friday, and then they gave me an extension because I was trying to get, hopefully, a good feel for where the municipality might stand on an approval to either stockpile the material or an actual amendment to import the material. So without that, I kind of kept the number a little bit higher and not as competitive because I wasn't sure if we would have that availability.
Okay, so I think we all have now a better understanding of what your needs are going to be. And so, and you have an understanding of the process. You need to get
Sure.
the others done and in and complete working with our staff. And, but I think at least now council has a better understanding of what some of the problems are that you're facing. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to the Director of Planning. Having built a house and familiar with building, it is very crucial when you're building a foundation that you have it on virgin land, because that's the land that's tight. If they fill this in with dirt and then build a house on top of it, that land would not have settled or compacted to the level of original virgin land, and therefore the structure would be subjected to a lot of stress and cracking. I've never heard of anybody wanting to build over fresh soil. You always go down to virgin land because that is as solid as it can get. Am I not correct, Mr. Trouble?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is generally the concept. You're correct, Mr. Rayner, Councillor Rayner. But there are ways around that through things called engineering fill and stuff like that. But, you know, I guess, Madam Mayor, just to caution, as you two have, the Vice Chair and yourself, planning staff are a long ways, and I know Public Works staff are a long ways from any of this at this particular point in time. We don't even have applications. So I was getting a little nervous when we started talking about housing types and unit counts and stuff like that. And from a servicing perspective, we've seen nothing to be supporting. So I think we can get around the issue to deal with Councillor Rayner's concern, but we're a long ways from any of that yet.
So we've had an introduction, and I think that was the point. So I will thank you very much, all of you, for being here and for providing council with an overarching look at what your propositions are. And then when your things are ready to come forward, then certainly staff will work with you on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Council.
Okay, Councillor Witteveen, it's time for you, sir. Regional Council's remarks this evening.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff members, and members of the public. I wanted to start by highlighting some information from our public health and social services meetings last month. In June, we were presented with public health inspections annual report from 2023. And there were a total of 13,621 inspections in 2023, and the breakdown goes like general food inspections were 8,711, personal service settings at 1,526, recreational water testing at 1,151, and long-term care group homes and shelters were 821 or 12 inspections, and international agriculture workers at 637, childcare at 407, and safe water haulers at 342. Complaints and investigations totaled 1,499, and 1,266 for rabies. General food and health hazards made up for 80% of the caseloads. Public Health Unit continues to improve its web-based presence to offer the public better communication. Top web pages are for healthcare facility outbreaks, beach water testing, closure orders and convictions, and health inspection results. So with the transparency of inspection findings, consumers can make informed choices, and the key public health is to keep Niagara residents and visitors safe. Supporting and educating local businesses so they can promote their own inspection results in compliance with regulations, as in restaurants. So on that same day, in June, we at Social Services, we had a presentation on the poverty reduction strategy. To no surprise, highlighting the information goes like this: the OW, which is Ontario Works, and ODSP, Ontario Disability Support Program, barely covers rent. So we rely on 45 social and health agencies to make up the shortfall on those living in poverty. To give you an idea of the shortfall we have for these individuals, a single would be short $540 a month. A single plus child would be short $843, and a couple with 2 children are in excess of $1,585 a month for support. And so obviously these numbers are definitely not acceptable for our residents. So we, as representatives of the public, for the public, continue to advocate the province and the federal government to raise these rates for those on social assistance. That same day, we did pass a resolution directing the chair of the Niagara region to request action to be taken to increase the OW and the ODSP compensation to help mitigate further hardship that has resulted from these frozen rates. And I know, and as we all know, that we are doing our part supporting West Lincoln's community care so that our residents can be supported in a kind and caring manner. So later that month, I had an opportunity to be the Master of Ceremonies for the 50th anniversary celebration of the Niagara Escarpment Commission. As you know, I'm a Niagara Escarpment Commissioner. And so that afternoon, the event was held at Queenston Heights with local representatives and past chairpersons of the Commission, sharing experience of the wonderful biosphere we have here in Ontario. We tend to take this kind of for granted as we live and work and play in this geographic wonder. So, and again, it takes staff, dedication, and commissioners to land use plan this geography. Canada Day, my wife and I and some friends, we participated in celebrations at Leisureplexx facilities, enjoyed the opening ceremonies and listening to the Practically Hip, and of course the display of fireworks to end off the evening. I just wanted to express my thanks to all those that made this event possible for our residents to enjoy that evening. And this past Thursday, I was invited to an announcement in Vineland Research Centre between the provincial government and the federal government made a, $23.5 million investment. So Vineland is converting applied research, important research, to the commercialization and delivery of solutions that will help farmers, processors, and ultimately consumers. So this was exciting news as that investment will branch out into our community. So Vineland also plays a very key role not only in Niagara but across the country. So the breakdown for interest was the feds will be contributing 14.3 and the province will be contributing 9.42. So this is my report. If any members have any questions, I'm gladly answer them for you.
Thank you, Councillor Witteveen. Councillor Bradrick, question.
Thank you very much, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Witteveen. A couple of months ago, I had asked you a question in regards to the intersection of Industrial Drive and Regional Road 20 and the danger intersection that can present as, and I was wondering if you had an update for us.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Broderick, the only update I had was from our Director Tassone, and that was in April when the inquiry was made. And Director Tassone basically stated that they were going to work, I guess, on the, so I'll read his response because that would probably be the smartest thing for me to do. Transportation Service staff completed a traffic signal warranted on June the 15th, 2023 in anticipation of the oncoming construction of Regional Road 20 Phase 4. Staff completed this exercise to ensure there were no changes required prior to moving forward with the implementation of the pedestrian crossing at Denison Drive. So with the results of the warrant, of the analysis showed that a signal was not warranted at this time based on the warranted criteria. But moving forward, we will be starting to prepare for Phase 5 of the project in early 2025 and plan to perform one more warrant analysis at this intersection to ensure that we capture any changes in warrants before we complete Phase 5. So that was the response from the director. So at this point in time, I guess nothing further has been done other than the response from this email.
Through you, Mayor, thank you, Councillor Woodavine. You know, I do hear residents reach out in regards to that intersection. I myself just almost got nailed a week or so ago at that intersection and brought back, you know, wanting to see if there was any further information that had come to you. So I think once our CAO gets settled into his new role, I'll reach out and see if we can, you know, make our own reach out to the region to see if we can look at perhaps some other calming measures within that area. It's just a big concern for me in regards to the plaza being right there. You see people cut through the plaza to avoid that intersection, and I think that perhaps maybe it's not as fulsome of just based on the statistics, that there may be other things in play that I think it would be important for the people at the region to understand. So I'll leave that at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further?
Could I respond
yeah,
to
go
that,
ahead,
Madam
please,
Mayor?
Councillor.
So thank you for that, and any help from the township on that issue. And Councillor Braddock, I totally understand, and I searched out that answer, but I was also not satisfied with the timeline or the answer. But there's only so much that myself and Madam Mayor can do. So anything the township can formalize and submit in a request to help us pursue that intersection so that it can be operated in a safe manner. So, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a particularly awkward intersection too, because of the way it spans out, you know. So I think there have been issues in the past where cars are actually trying to turn on the wrong lane, and like it's a bigger picture than just a number count. So we'll work on that some more, I think, for sure,
Yes.
moving forward. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, through to our regional councillor. I watched on Channel 11 last week the announcement from the minister at the Vineland Research Center, and I was taken back and kind of shocked because our province was involved in promoting agriculture, and of course our representative was in the limelight of the photo shoot. But they also showed pictures of brand new tractors sitting behind the building, one after the other. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess they were supposed to be used for this project, but the developers just bought the land, so these tractors are going to sit there now and not be used. It seemed ironic to me that the province who's pushing for development is at the same time promoting agriculture, which their development takes away from the farming community to work on. So to me, it was, what are we doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, because the push is for housing that removes agricultural land, and yet he's promoting agriculture. You can't suck and blow at the same time. You're either one or the other. And I just thought that whole thing, I laughed. I thought it was rather ridiculous, considering the amount of damage that the provincial government has done trying to take green space and green belts and everything. Just for a minute, please,
Wait a second.
Madam
Do
Mayor.
you have a question for for our regional council.
All right, the question is, did you find that kind of ironic that we have representatives from the province down there promoting agriculture and the same people who are pushing like crazy to take shortcuts for development of housing?
To you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Rayner, it was obviously the Agriculture Minister, Robert Flack, which has just been, I guess, a newly minted in his position. And so it's renewed investment in helping, I guess, the deficiencies of processors, and also to help use applied research to come up with new product development. They were if you watch, they were talking about a development in a more, I guess, pears, and so there's already field plantings, and obviously, Councillor Rayner, you worked at E.D. Smith, so you're quite aware of bringing in new varieties and for the food system. So this was the president. I didn't find it odd at all. This is Vineland Experimentals, or the VRIC station, where we have innovation and technology and robotics for agriculture. So it was an investment by the province and the federal government. And I think what you're referring to is a separate topic from this, because of where it took place in this renewed investment in Vineland for agriculture. So,
thank you for that comment. Yes, I was Director of Farm Operations for E.D. Smith, the largest pick-your-own operation in Canada. And there was clearly a picture in the paper about 20 years ago of the last orchard in Grimsby going under the excavator. And now you're talking about promoting pears, but promoting pears have to go on land, and if the government is chopping that all up to put housing on it, they can do all the development they want on those pear trees, but if you haven't got the land to put them in, what value is the development?
Councillor, please don't debate the presenter. Thank you. Okay. Anything further from anyone else? Okay. Your microphone, sir. Thank you. Okay, so confirmation of the council minutes from June 24th. Councillor Chichok, you have that. Thank you.
I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. That the minutes relating to the open session portion of the June 24th council meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the June 24th regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted for public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. Someone to second that? Thank you,
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Riley. Glad you joined in there. Okay. Almost said Trumbetta, almost came out, but we'll let him do that. All right, the open session portion, any questions about the open session portion of those minutes? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk? It should be on your screen, Councillor, shortly.
Support.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, does it come up? You've got everybody? All right, that resolution carries. Under communications, Councillor Broderick, you have World Hepatitis Day, recognition of World Hepatitis Day in the Township of West Lincoln.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, whereas approximately 204,000 Canadians are living with hepatitis C and over 250,000 people are living with hepatitis B, and whereas people living with hepatitis B and C have an increased risk of developing cirrhosis, liver failure, and related illnesses, and whereas Ontario has over 110,000 people living with hepatitis B or C, both of which are slow and progressive diseases. And whereas there are vaccines available for hepatitis A and B, effective hepatitis C treatment therapies can cure over 95% of cases. And whereas the World Hepatitis Day provides an opportunity to reach out to millions of Canadians and encourage hepatitis testing, provide treatment and care for those affected while paving the way towards elimination of hepatitis as a public health concern in Canada by 2030. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of West Lincoln Council acknowledge July 28, 2024 as World Hepatitis Day.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Trevetta, could I ask you to second that resolution, please, since I cut you off the last time? Thank you. Okay. Any question or discussion about that? Counselor Rayner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder why we're doing this for. We're not doctors. Your family physician should be advising you on this. It's not our position to tell people what to do with their health. So I do not understand why we have to acclaim this when the people who see their physicians, they can discuss this with them at the time.
Well, I would say the shortage of family physicians is a big factor at this point in time. But more importantly, each municipality right across the province is asked to make a proclamation. We don't do proclamations as such because of the number of requests for those. And so instead, this kind of thing, which is the day, we're not declaring it, we're just supporting the recognition of it. And so our council is just showing that they support it. If you choose not to support that, that's your choice.
Madam Mayor, we have measles outbreaks now that they're talking about that we haven't had in years because people aren't getting vaccinated. We have whooping cough. I mean, we could do one of these a month.
We could be asked to do one a month if somebody did that, but that's why we don't do proclamations, but we certainly can support something that we're being asked to do. So I'm going to call for the vote, clerk, please.
Support.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, and that also carries. Thank you. So item 12 on the agenda are the mayor's remarks, and I'm going to read what I've prepared. Thank you. On the afternoon of June 24th, interim CAO D. Philippus and I had the pleasure of taking part in a tour of our community center as the Director of Public Works and Recreation, Mike DePaula, and staff members Bob Dennison and Wendy Beatty did an excellent job of providing a welcoming and thorough tour of the West Lincoln Community Center for two gentlemen. One of the two was interested in exploring a potential opportunity to use our facility, and the other was supportive of this idea for his longtime friend and business associate. I had the pleasure on June 25th of welcoming Daisy Y., Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister for Seniors and Accessibility, to West Lincoln. PAY, accompanied by our local MPP Sam Osterhoff, was in town to acknowledge our receipt of a provincial grant to support seniors programming at our community center. Congratulations to our recreation staff on this successful grant application. June 26th, interim CAO D. Philippus and I attended the Grand Erie Business Center Board's AGM in Caledonia. Councillor Joanne Chichok and resident Steve Ecker represent West Lincoln on this board and have been helpful in trying to direct some of the funding opportunities provided by the board toward West Lincoln startup businesses. We do have some local business owners who have benefited from Grand Erie Board initiatives, and we are hopeful that our attendance helps to cement the relationship West Lincoln has with the Grand Erie Business Center Board. I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank staff from all departments, Recreation, Public Works, and Fire, who were involved in any way with our Canada Day celebrations, and Councillor Witteveen has already alluded to these. The buzz around town and on social media following Canada Day was that the band was fantastic and the fireworks were amazing. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, rather than taking the summer off for meetings, has elected to continue to meet at 10 a.m. on the first Wednesday of the month. It is their plan to host a contest among school-aged children to determine this year's corporate holiday card. To that end, they are currently working on the rules and regulations for this contest and are planning for and making posters to advertise their contest that will run during the month of September. As time has permitted during the last 2 months, Executive Assistant Jackie Thrower and I have been working on the draft documents for our AMO delegations. We have submitted 3 requests for delegation time slots, one to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Paul Calandra, one to the Minister of Infrastructure, Kinga Surma, and one to the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Gaming, Stan Chow. The first 2 are somewhat related as they refer strongly to our potential housing capabilities and our definite need for infrastructure funding to get water and wastewater pipes in the ground so as to allow us to have homes built in West Lincoln. The third is a request to the ministry to increase funding to libraries, funding that has not changed during the last 25 years. For example, the Public Libraries Operating Grant, or PLOG as it's called, provides annually to West Lincoln the amount of $22,800, an amount that has remained the same for more than 2 decades. In spite of the changes over time to overall budgets related to such things as utility costs, print, audiovisual, and other material increases, computers and related software increases, wages and benefit package changes, programming expectations, and so on. Libraries, which operate under the Public Libraries Act of 1990, are mandated to provide equitable services to communities and their residents at little or no out-of-pocket costs. We also request in our delegation that this act be reviewed and updated accordingly, as it, too, is close to 35 years old. Each of our 3 draft delegation documents is now complete. However, as of today, we have not yet heard whether or not we've been granted time before any of the ministers or their parliamentary assistants at the Association of Municipality Conference in August. And I will just say that Councillor Bradrick, Councillor Chichok, Councillor Riley, our new CAO, Mr. Councillor, Trooper McBride, and myself are all attending, and we're hoping to get these delegations. But what we have done instead is make sure that all the work is done, and so that turnaround time when we hear is really, really very short. So we're prepared to just send them in, and that's kind of the point of all of this. So finally, I just want to say that on July 12th, which was Friday, it was a great pleasure to welcome our new CAO, Trooper McBride, as he began his first day in West Lincoln, and we're most definitely happy to have him on board. And that concludes my remarks for this evening. So because this is all committees and also council, the first grouping of reports of committee this evening are under the Planning, Building, and Environmental Committee. So the first item that you'll see is under 13.1 on your agenda is Senior Planner, again, Susan Smythe, Manager of Planning, Garrett Borma, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Read the technical report, PD-32-2024, Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, 2017-70, Housekeeping Amendment Number 8, File Number 1601-005-24. And Councillor Riley, do you have that in front of you or no?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay, would you please read that then?
Yes, moved by myself, the technical report PD 32-2024, titled Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2017-70, Housekeeping Amendment 8, File Number 1601-005-24, dated July 15, 2024, be received. And that staff present a recommendation report to a future Planning, Building, and Environmental Committee meeting when all public agency comments have been received and given full consideration and a full planning review is completed.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Chichok, as Vice Chair, would you second that?
I'd be happy to do that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or discussion regarding this issue? I'll remind you, this is the one that we've just had an open meeting on, so if you didn't have a chance then to make comments and you want to do so now? Okay, so I guess nothing further, so we'll look for that, please. So the vote is in front of you?
Support.
Thanks,
Support.
Councillor.
Your call. I know you've got problems with this.
And that carries. Item number 2 under 13.1 is Senior Planner Madison Etzel and Manager of Planning Garrett Borma. Read the technical report PD-31-2024, Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Temporary Use Bylaw, Frank and Jana Bulk, Garden Suite Application, File Number 1601-006-24. And Councillor Chichok, you have that resolution.
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. That the technical report, PD 31-2024, titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Temporary Use Bylaw for Frank and Jana Bulk, Garden Suite Application, File Number 1601-006-24, dated July 15th, be received, and that a recommendation report be submitted to the future Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting once a full staff and agency review has been completed.
Thank you. And to second that, somebody, Councillor Bradrick, thank you. Any questions or comments about this application? Councillor Rayner.
Just remind everybody, this is a technical report. And
It
you know
does
what
say that technical report, yes.
Yes, and you know what that means.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, again in front of us, please. The vote should be there, Councillor.
Support.
Thanks, Councillor. And that also carries. Thank you, everyone. Item number 3 under 13.1 is the Township of West Lincoln Heritage Committee. Read minutes of September 28th, 2023, January 18th, 2024, January 25th, 2024. And Councillor Riley, again, do you have that, sir?
Can you say that again? You cut out.
The Heritage Committee minutes, do you have that in front of you?
I have the confidential minutes in front of me.
It says confidential minutes under separate cover, but do you have the
Oh.
resolution?
I do, sorry, it's just printed differently on my page. 1 second.
Okay, okay, no worries, this is always tricky, the back and forth. Would you read that,
All
Censor?
right, I think I have it here. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess moved by myself, so it's just front of my glasses here again. That the minutes related to the September 28, 2023 West Lincoln Heritage Committee meeting that we received information that the confidential minutes referring to the closed session exemption or session January 18, 2024 West Lincoln Heritage Committee we received and information, and the minutes can remain confidential and restricted to public disclosure in accordance with exceptions or exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act, and that the minutes relating to the January 25th, 2024 West Lincoln Heritage Committee meeting be received for information.
Thank you. Someone to second that, please. Councillor Trombetta? Thank you. Okay, are there any questions about the open portions of that? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Clerk? Okay, the vote is in front of you, councillors.
Support.
Thanks, councillor. Okay, 13.2 then begins the portion that has under Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee. If we were having a separate meeting, that's where they would be held. And the first is number 1, Acting Director of Legislative Services or Clerk Justin Palov. We report C-02-2024, options relating to filling the vacancy of the office for one councillor position for Ward 3. And Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the recommendation report C-02-2024 titled "The Option Relating to Filling the Vacancy of the Office for one councillor position for Ward 3 dated July 15th, 2024 be received, and that the clerk be given direction that the vacancy of the office for one councillor position for Ward 3 for the remainder of the term 2022 to 2026 of council be filled through an option. And there's no option yet, as we have to discuss it as detailed herein.
Thank you. And someone to second that resolution, please. Councillor Bradrick, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go to our clerk, who's going to provide a brief synopsis of this report. It was a thorough report and an excellent report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the rest of council. This report is brought forth to you based on the vacancy declaration made on June 24th, 2024, which was a required action based upon the Municipal Act. Before you is a report that speaks to the historical practices in West Lincoln where vacancies were filled with both the appointment provision as well as the by-election provision. It is important to note for council and for the public as well that there is no precedent set by previous decisions made by past councils and in regards to the process of filling a vacancy. Every filling of a vacant seat is and should be treated as a completely individual circumstance to the council at hand. In the report, there are a few options in which council can pursue. There is the appointment provision with various A, B, and C, as well as the by-election, which is the second option. I am open to any questions that council may have and or from the public.
Okay, thank you. So does anybody want to open the discussion on this now that it's on the floor?
So I guess go ahead, Councilor Chichak first.
No, go ahead. You started to speak. Go ahead. C comes before C. If we're going backwards, go ahead. I was looking your way,
It's not a
Councillor. Go
good
ahead.
record right now. That's not a good reference right now. Sorry, Councilor. So I guess you're looking for, Madam Mayor or Mr. Clerk, you're looking for someone to put something forward and what option we're looking at?
Through the chair to Councillor Trombetta, yes, I can read out the options just for clarity for the members of public as well as council, just in case they don't have the report in front of them, if that is acceptable.
That's acceptable to me. I'm sure it's acceptable to the rest of council to just hear them again.
So
Thank you.
option 1A is an appointment through application. So that would include us putting out advertisement in the local newspapers, and that is, as it sounds, an application-based process in which somebody would reach out from the members of the public through that application, and that's where they would be selected. Option 1B is to appoint the candidate who came third place in the 2022 municipal election. And option 1C, which is a relatively low-cost option, is where council simply selects a member of the public. Again, this individual who would be appointed cannot be a member of the public who is barred from running in an election. They need to meet the threshold of being allowed to run an election. These are pretty baseline requirements that are found in the Municipal Act, such as being over 18, residing and or owning property and or renting property within the township, et cetera. The section option is a by-election option. So this would start a process in which that we would have to pass a bylaw in August. This would create the precedent for a by-election. This happened in 2016, I believe, previously. And our Madam Mayor actually came onto council through that process. There is a timeline laid out in the report that would give more detail in regards to how the by-election process would work. And that would be, just as a very broad scale, the nomination process would happen August 13th. That would open up for members of the public to apply normally through the by-election. And we are looking at a timeline where the voting day would occur November 4th. So those are the options that council has. There's two options, again, through the appointment process as well as the by-election process, and council can make their choice whichever they feel most comfortable.
Madam Mayor, I still have the floor.
Yes, you do.
Madam Mayor, through you to the clerk, can you give me the results of the election, or the gap between candidates? If you have that prepared.
So for Ward 3 in the 2022 municipal election, the winners of the ward, again, were Councillor Riley with 1,938 votes. The second place was Terry Bell, who received 1,671 votes. Third place, which is I think what you're getting at with the third option there for an appointment, was Mark Wanders with 693 votes, so approximately 1,000 vote difference, give or take a few votes from the ones who were successful. And then in fourth place was Clarence Vanderhout with 525 votes.
Okay. Just sometimes for clarification, you want to see the gap. I know we've done, this is my third time on council, and every time I've been on council, we've had a vacancy. So we've went to a
I think I questioned that commonality once before.
We've had a vacancy. This is my third, I guess, again, I've been elected to my third time. We've had a vacancy. We did an appointment, was it an appointment, I guess, for the second one? But I think the vacancy, we decided to go out, and then the appointment, the numbers were very close, and I think it's the person that I'm to the left of me. So in this case, my option will be the the by-election option. I'll put that forward.
Okay, well, that's, Councillor Bradford, do you want to speak to that, or are you going to second it as well?
No, I definitely was going to do the same thing. I think, for very good reasons, being, great things come from appointments, but it was during a pandemic.
It was during a pandemic. I'm glad you pointed that out.
We still have 2 years left in this term. It's part of the democratic process. It makes the process transparent. And I think that it offers the opportunity for true representation for current issues. There being also the large gap that Councillor Trombretta has pointed out between the second and third and fourth place. So, for those, all those reasons combined, I think a by-election would be the way I would support as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riley, do you want to weigh in?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Please do now, sir.
All right. So, in reviewing the report there, I get that there's many different options we can go with. I don't think there's a wrong option, if I can be honest. I know last term we went to the appointment. Last term was a little bit more stickier. This term, I think when you look at the difference, just alone in the votes, I think the community made a very clear decision. When we look at Councillor Broderick's situation, it was a very close race. I think in this one, I think we owe it to the people to have their voice weigh in who they want that second seat to be. If this was a little bit closer, I think I'd be leaning towards the appointment. But considering there's almost 1,000 votes different, I just think we let the people decide who's going to be the second representative in Ward 3. That's my feeling, and that's what I'd be supporting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chichak?
Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I agree with everything that's been said by Councillor Bradrick. It would be the only democratic way to do it. We still have more than half a term to endure. So anyone willing to put their name forward, the situation is different than it was a year and a half ago. And we have appointed people and been lucky in the past, but that was during the pandemic. And in the time before that, we went to an election for that very reason, which was to give the people of the community in the ward affected the opportunity to exercise their right. So it also stands to reason that the other two individuals who ran, and we thank them for that, running all the time, were not marginally different than the first two. They were vastly different. So I think that it's appropriate that we move to an election and give people the opportunity to voice their opinion, and give those willing to put their name forward an opportunity to put it before the entirety of the ward.
Thank you. So everyone's had a chance. Councillor Rayner, you've returned the room. Do you want to weigh in on that? No? So I'm just going to say that in 2016, there was also, that by-election was actually held in August. So there was more than half of the term left at that point in time as well. So I think, for me, that's a factor, is how much of the term is left, in addition to all of the other points that everyone's pointed out. I think that the fact that it's at least a half term is certainly worthwhile. So if we were to then, as suggested and seconded, to put the by-election option in, any further discussion on that? So can we just assume now that that's the...
Yeah, so through the mayor to the rest of
Clerk?
council, I will put in option 2, and the vote will come up. It is up to council whether they decide to go with option 2. If it loses, it obviously
People can vote on it, but that is the option that's filling the gap.
That is the option
Okay,
currently
okay,
that is filling the gap.
Currently, okay, fair enough. Okay, so the vote will come up. When you see option 2, it is as we've discussed.
Support.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, and that resolution carries. So, Mr. Clerk, some work. Okay, so thank you for that discussion. So as we move on then, item number 2 is Director of Finance and Treasurer Donna DeFilippis and Manager of Finance / Deputy Treasurer Caitlin Repovs read the recommendation report T-14-2024, the draft audited financial statements and audit findings for the year end 2023. So Councillor Bradrick, you have that resolution, please?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, 1, that recommendation report T-14-2024, titled Draft Financial Statements and Audit Findings for Year End 2023, dated July 15th, 2024, be received, and 2, that the 2023 draft audited financial statements attached as Appendix A to this report be approved, and 3, that the 2023 audit findings report attached as Appendix B to this report be received.
Thank you. And someone to second that, please? Councillor Chichok, thank you. So before turning this over to the director to speak to, I just want to say what an excellent report, what a thorough report, and how long a report, you two. I'll let you speak to it now, but it was a lot of work, and I want to acknowledge the work that you both put into that. And Caitlin, you're going to do the speaking, are you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Before Caitlin speaks, I just want to make a few comments. What council sees before them this evening are a few pieces of paper, and I don't think it represents what this audit actually entails and what the opinion means and what went into this report. Obviously, we manage the finances for an entire year, and once a year, auditors appear at our door and they audit the financial statements. These financial statements are produced by the township. They are not produced by the auditors. And it's months and months and months of preparation of preparing what we call working papers for the auditors so that they can come and do their audit. And it also involves a lot of collaboration between all the departments at the township, because obviously these financial statements represent the activities, and that involves all the departments. So I want to thank all the directors who, with their staff, assisted with this, and especially I want to congratulate Caitlin Repos and the finance staff, especially this year, as we worked with they worked with a very lean staff, and they were still able to get this done on time. So congratulations.
And as you were saying, lots and lots and lots of work. Caitlin's nodding her head. Yeah, lots and lots and lots of work. Okay, Caitlin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Donna. Staff are pleased to present the draft 2023 audited financial statement and audit findings report this evening. The financial statements, as Donna mentioned, prepared by our Treasury staff, provide council and members of the community with a transparent overview of the township's financial position and operations for the year-end December 31st, 2023. Our financial statements were audited by KPMG LLP, and attached to the statements is the independent auditor's reports, which indicate an unqualified opinion, or a clean opinion, as we like to say. This means that the auditors did not find any material misstatements, either on a qualitative or quantitative basis. The audit findings report also provides an overview of the 2023 audit results and audit risks. It also indicates that there were no misstatements noted by the auditor within the course of the audit, and there are no other matters to bring to council's attention. Just in front of you, you will find a supplemental document to the audit findings report as provided by the auditors. This document supports and is consistent with the two-way communication that is encouraged between our members of council and our auditors. Based on the questions asked in this document, the auditors have just requested that if you have any concerns with respect to our financial statements, that you please reach out to Carlos Alvarez, our engagement partner from KPMG. His contact information is noted along the bottom of the document. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions or?
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Financial statements are usually a great sleeper when people are having trouble sleeping to look at. And I must say, I want to know if our staff had any kind of computer-enhanced tools that they didn't use in this report, because I tell you, this one will really keep you awake. It's a new format. It's a new opportunity. I'm sure that KPMG had some input into it, but the numbers behind are exciting, and the report itself is a pleasure to read. And aside from all of my comment about the inclusion of all of the graphics, I'm very proud to take these anywhere and show them off. So congratulations to you both. And I do think that I do hope you are submitting them for the awards at the various associations that look at these reports and determine who's the best in Ontario, because I think you are among the best in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further from anyone? Okay. Vote then, please, sir. Waiting for? Just Councillor Riley. Councillor Riley? He's maybe lost track. Or maybe we've lost him, have we? Oh, there we go.
Pardon me, Madam Mayor?
Yes, we're just waiting for your acceptance of the financial statements.
Sorry, it's the wrong mute button here. You have to hit *6 sometimes, and then sometimes it's just to mute my phone. So I support.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the Deputy Treasurer Manager of Finance, Caitlin Repos, and the Director of Finance Treasurer, Donna DeFilippis, are on for the next report as well. That resolution that we've just had in front of us has carried, and so we're on to your next one. So, Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a recommendation report T15-2024 regarding the 2023 accumulated operating surplus dated July 15th, 2024 be received, and that council authorizes that $150,000 of the 2023 accumulating operating surplus be used as revenue in the 2025 operating budget, and that council authorizes that $343,980 of the remaining accumulated operating surplus be transferred to the contingency reserve.
Thank you. And someone to second that resolution, please? Councillor Sheechok, thank you. Okay. Would you like to speak to that also first, Donna? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of the report this evening is to discuss the accumulated surplus of $643,980. $150,000 of that is being used in the 2024 budget. We're recommending that $150,000 be used in the 2025 budget. The reason we do that is to avoid fluctuations year to year, so that way that revenue stream will be consistent. And the final recommendation is to transfer the remainder, $343,980, into the contingency reserve. The contingency reserve is the reserve we use for, I will say, emergencies that come up during the year. So it's really important that we have sufficient funds in that reserve. As per the reserve policy, our balance should be 10% of the prior year tax levy. So even with this transfer, we will still be short of that target. The target is $908,000. Council is reminded that this contingency reserve, money has been assigned within the contingency to fund the implementation of the non-union grid. And that implementation is going to be over the years 2020, it's up to 2027. Again, council's reminded that the implementation is being done where part of it is on the tax levy and part of it is on reserves, so that eventually it's all on the tax levy. In terms of the surplus, $500,000 was also transferred back in January to the capital reserve. Council will remember that when we were looking at the capital budget and looking at the impact it would have on the levy, we recommended that $500,000 of that anticipated surplus be transferred to that capital reserve, which helped greatly. And that left us the $643,980 to discuss this evening. In terms of what's contributing to that surplus, the most significant item is our investment revenue. It has exceeded our budget by $713,600, which is significant. Of course, that's not a predictable revenue stream. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to take advantage of high interest rates. And we are very diligent to try to put some money into some longer term investments so that as rates go down, which they will go down, at least some of our funds have been locked in. So that's the most significant. We have other revenues that exceeded budget and also savings in departments. And that's all outlined in the report, which I know you all read. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the director? Councillor Chichok? No. No. Oh, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Donna. Did you say 643,980?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Gannett, Councillor Rayner, that is the remainder surplus. Yes, 643,980. 500,000 of the accumulated of the surplus was already transferred to the capital reserve. So in essence, the total surplus was 1.4 million. 1.14 million. I'm sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair. That's how much surplus we had over what we predicted we would spend in 2023?
Through you, Mayor, yes.
How do I put this? I just received 2 weeks ago a very large increase in my property taxes, which I was shocked by because I don't really see a difference in what I'm getting last year to this year, but I'm paying a hell of a lot more for nothing. I am concerned about that, and I've tried to find ways of reducing the budget number so that it would be more livable. Now I see we've really done extremely well in 2023, and I was told it's too late to make any changes without redoing the budget for 2024. So, and I heard that 2025, I believe, is going to be very difficult. So am I assumed that this is going to be used against bringing down the potential percentage of the budget increase for taxation in 2025?
Through you, Mayor Ganan, to Councillor Rayner, $500,000 of this surplus was used in the 2024 budget. It was transferred to the capital reserve. That allowed our capital projects to go forward. If we had not used that $500,000 in the capital reserve, council would have been looking at a larger tax levy than was actually approved. So that did assist with the 2024 budget. In addition, $150,000 of this amount was used in the 2024 budget as a stream of revenue. So again, that has been used. We are recommending that $150,000 be used in the 2025 budget, so it will be used to assist there. The remaining $343,980 is being transferred to the contingency reserve. It is our recommendation that this reserve, which should have a balance of just over $900,000, have these funds contributed to it in order to provide council with security in terms of if anything happened and they needed emergency funds, there would be a place to transfer funds from. If we did not have this reserve, then you'd be looking at even increasing taxes more. So I can assure you that this surplus is being well used. As I mentioned, the bulk of the surplus is due to interest rates, which is not predictable, not reliable. We take advantage of it when it happens, but it is not something that we can base year over year.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Donna. What accounted for the vast majority of this over $1 million surplus in 2023?
Through you, Mayor Ganan, to Councillor Rayner, just over $700,000 of it was due to investments. That included the dividend we received from our investment with the utility. $63,000 was from interest on penalty. $150,000 of this accumulated surplus was actually from 2022. We carry it forward. If I look at the report, we had savings in several operating departments where money was not spent as budgeted. So there's details in the report. I can read every single line item to you if you would like. But I highlight what the bulk of the surplus was due to. If we did not have this interest, we would not be transferring these funds into the contingency reserve. It would not have been available.
Fine. Final question, Madam Mayor, through to Donna. The interest rate that we accrued that made all this money, how come it was not predicted when normally if you have the money, you know how long your term is, you know what % your interest rate is, and this money should have been locked in or guaranteed for a duration of period of time, and therefore possibly could have been used to offset the 2024 budget because we knew this money was going to come in on a surplus because we had it locked in. I don't understand. I understand now we're showing, oh, we got a great surplus in 2023. But if that was locked in interest, we should have known a good percentage of that we're telling you about today was guaranteed because it was already locked in. I'm confused.
Through you, Mayor Ganan, to Councillor Rayner. So I'm going to answer this question in a few parts. First of all, we budget to avoid fluctuations. If we had budgeted $700,000 in investment revenue for 2024, we know that would not be available in 2025. So then, all of a sudden, we would have a significant drop in revenue that we would have to increase taxes significantly. So we try to avoid those large fluctuations. The other reason is, you are correct, we know what our investments are invested at. However, what we don't know is what else can happen during the year. For example, in the report, I outline how legal fees exceeded budget, and they could have exceeded budget even more. There could have been some kind of event that happened where the township would have to exceed budget. So the way we budget is to ensure that there's not a lot of fluctuations, and this surplus is used to assist with future tax increases. If we did not have this money in the contingency reserve, the non-union grid implementation would have required 100% tax levy increases to fund it. We were able to slowly bring it on the tax levy by using reserves. So at the end of the day, we are using these funds to help with the tax levy. It may not be in the actual year it happens, but it is used. A municipality has to deal with their surplus or deficit. We just can't keep this huge amount of money. It is used, transferred to reserve. So it is being used to lower future tax levies.
Thank you, Director, and thank you. That was your last question you said, so.
Yeah, but Donna brought up something, if I just could add one more thing. Is that that salary grid thing finalized, or is that option flexible based on the circumstances of the large taxes that we've experienced this year and possibly could be stretched farther to ease the pressure on the taxpayer in the next few
Councillor, if you
years?
recall the budget, during budget sessions, for the last 2 years, we've stretched it out further, each of the last two budgets. So
I know, and
I think it's already to 28 perhaps, and I don't think we're going to stretch it out any further. But we have discussed it at each budget session.
We
The
can
questions have
discuss it
been
next
asked,
budget.
and it's gone on. So what we could do is wait till the next thing. We're certainly not going to open that up this
Well,
evening.
we can do it at budget time again. We can discuss it further and its impact.
I suppose, but we're not going to be able to change it. We've
I know,
already.
we've already changed it before.
Well, moved it out further, but we can't keep doing that to staff ad infinitum. So let's leave it for now, please. Thank you for your report. Councillor Chichok.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at this, and I know that we, at the time of budget last year, when it was so difficult, that we were aware of some of this surplus coming forward, and we looked at a way of reducing our borrowing costs and our debt financing costs by putting some of that surplus into the capital reserve when we robbed it to fund some of the capital we wanted to put into last year's budget. And I think that the staff came up with a creative way, knowing that we were going to have some surplus. We put that into jeopardy at the time, but knowing full well we would likely be able to put it back when we concluded the year. So I applaud you for doing what you said you were going to do and not giving us a chance to spend it somewhere else. The $150,000 offset is something we do every year, and someday we may choose to take it out and just fly by the seat of our pants and see an extra 1 or 2% increase. But at this point in time, it's consistent with prior years, so I'm satisfied with that. And it's not a critique I'm giving you, but I think in light of the message that you just gave us, I fully support what you have done. I am a little bit dismayed at the fact that we had pardon me, I hope that those unpaid property taxes are paid now, but that actually could result in some write-off, because that penalty that sits in there at $63,000 is not necessarily 100% collectible if people come to us out of an issue, through you, Madam Mayor, of desperation. There is an application for people who have problems beyond the scope of their financial means. So it's in there, and we see it. And if they need to, Madam Mayor, I guess I should ask a question. That is that there is an avenue for them to come forward. Am I correct?
Through you, Mayor Ganan, to Councillor Chichok, there are tax relief programs for people that are struggling with their property tax. Our website, we have links to all the application-based options that are there. And to your other point, we do have a allowance for unpaid taxes. In most cases, taxes are always collectible. Right. And we do have properties that are registered, and we do have some properties that will be coming up for tax sale shortly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I do point to the fact that we are already feeling the impact of the changes that occurred in development charges last year. And that's something we can't just overlook. The $236,000 is a direct reflection of the, $224,800 is the effect of development charge exemptions that we now have to pass on to the cost of housing that was eliminated from the last pass of Bill, 185 to 24 or whatever one took it in and put it back in. But that's a very sad day for a small municipality like ourselves. I know there are lots of groups out there trying to find a way to get more money for front ending or putting in the pipes, because our particular situation is we don't have the money to put the infrastructure in, and yet there's a $224,000 exemption that the province has required us to do that we could be putting towards capital works that would allow us to move some housing forward. And I wanted to make special note of that, and I thank you, the finance staff, for doing that. I am concerned a little bit with our recreation and culture programming, in the fact that $49,000 or $50,000 left unspent, and that the majority of those savings went because of our adult and youth programming, where I think those are the two areas where I would probably show more generosity than not to see that those people are served by the community that they have served very well, or will serve in the future as they grow older with us, I hope, in houses that they can afford. Anyway, I guess my point is that putting the money back into the reserve for capital was an excellent move. Secondly, putting the 150, as we always have, is, again, in my opinion only, a continuation of what we've done to avoid the rise and fall of taxes. The other thing is that the contingency reserve does not mean that we can't spend it in 2024. If looking at the rain today, we blew any sewers, we probably could be looking at something that will require us to look at that reserve. But if not, it's there for us in future years to be used for whatever seems to be the most pressing of issues. So, my opinion only, but I think that this is a very prudent way for you to suggest we allocate our surpluses from last year. And I thank you for taking the time to put something forward that I can't pull apart.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further from anyone else? Okay, so go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify one point regarding the adult programming and youth programming. It was actually a good news story. Those programs are so popular. They did better than we budgeted. So it's a good news story. They're very popular, and the revenue compared to the expenses was more favorable than what we had budgeted.
Mayor, if I think that's wonderful. That's great. And the fact that that extra money was there and we have lineups at the pickleball courts, I would have liked to have known whether or not, I did ask a question a couple months ago about whether or not we could put pickleball into the vacant ice arena ground surface, because I know that there is quite a lineup. And if that's the case, it would be great, because allowing people to use more space would have generated even more money. Okay. So
I'm glad you tied that in, because obviously that was very close to being off, but thank you.
Thank you.
You managed to tie it together.
I did, thank you.
Okay, so I think then we're ready to vote on this one too. The vote should be in front of you. Councillor Riley, are you still there?
Support.
Thank you. And that carries as well. Thank you. So item number 4 under that same topic is Fire Chief Dennis Fisher, read the information report WLFD-09-2024 monthly update, June 2024. Councillor Bradrick, you have the resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, the information report WLFD-09-2024 titled Monthly Update June 2024, dated July 15, 2024, be received for information.
Thank you. Councillor Trombetta, will you second that report? Sure. Thank you. So I just want to point out that there is an addendum to that report on your desk, and that's the monthly dispatches report has been updated. Any questions or comments regarding this report? Counselor Chichok.
For months now, I've been asking for where this report was. so I
Okay,
feel
Chief, come up to the.
I feel that it only fitting that this is a great improvement, and seeing, going back to January, what kind of calls we had through dispatching, now that the system, I guess, is up and running, is a great advantage. Now my question will be, and when calls get answered from Station 2, which I understand started on July the 10th, if I remember correctly, will we get dispatches by hall, or is this just going to be an accumulation of the two? That's my first question.
Thanks, Bruce.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Chichok. Right now, you'll get it by both together. St. Catharines has to split it for us. We've requested it, but it's not there yet. Right now, it'll be combined.
Madam Mayor, I just have to say that the fire chief is probably so tired of hearing me ask every month where the calls were, that I think he would have done this one by hand pretty soon if it hadn't come from the dispatch system. I thank you very much, and I look forward to more detailed data in the future. And Chief, the fact that we have a final occupancy on the fire hall number 2, and there would be an opening someday soon, I am looking forward to that in its entirety.
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to members of council. Yeah, I did, as you can see, we moved in last Wednesday, so they are running calls out of there. The executive assistant will be reaching out to you, members of council, on what is a good day for your council tour and media release. Right now, I'm shooting for July 31st. It's Wednesday, so Jackie will be reaching out to see if that works for you all, and we'll go from there. But that's what we're shooting for right now, July 31st.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor.
No, I'm probably correct, but the MVCs is motor vehicle crashes?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it?
That's it? Okay.
Very simple.
Nothing further? Okay, so the vote is in front of you for the report.
Support.
Thanks, Councilor. Waiting for somebody? No? Councilor, have you voted? Okay, so that report does carry. So 13.3 are the reports related to Public Works and the Recreation Committee. And the first is the West Lincoln Public Library Board. And Councilor Rayner, you have that resolution, please. The minutes of May 21st.
Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the May 21st, 2024 Library Board meeting be received for information.
Okay, and someone to second that, please. Councilor Trombetta, thank you. Any questions about those minutes? Seeing none? Okay. Please vote.
Support.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, it works this time.
Got everybody? Okay, and so that also carries. The second item under the Public Works and Recreation Committee agenda is Manager of Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Bob Dennison and Director of Public Works and Recreation Mike DePaula. Read the recommendation report REC-06-2024, Wide Area Mower Replacement Tender Authorization. And Councilor Trombetta, you have that resolution?
Yes, Madam Mayor, moved by myself that the recommendation report REC 06-2024 titled Wide Area Motor Replacement Tender Authorization dated July 15th, 2024 be received, and that, sorry, waiting for the microphones to get shut off, and that council accept the tender submission by Premier Equipment for the supply and delivery of a John Deere 1600 with an enclosed cab in the amount of $110,439.20 plus HST.
Thank you. Councilor Riley, can I ask you to second that, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to the director for a few comments about this, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this report is for a tender authorization for a wide area mower replacement as part of the township's equipment replacement capital plan. Council approved the replacement of the existing wide area mower in the amount of $140,000 as part of the 2024 budget. The current wide area mower is about 12 years old. It's nearing the end of its useful life with regular mechanical breakdowns and maintenance. Staff prepared a tender. They specified a like-for-like replacement of the existing wide area mower. As part of that tender, there was also provisions for a canopy or an enclosed cab, so we received pricing for 3 options. 2 submissions were received. Premier Equipment was the lowest bid received that meets the specifications in the tender document. So therefore, staff is recommending that John Deere 1600, which is the price submitted by Premier Equipment, with an enclosed cab at a bid price of $110,439.20, excluding GST. Any tender authorization over $100,000, according to our procurement bylaw, procurement procedure, has to come to council. So that's why this report is being presented tonight. As I mentioned earlier, $140,000 was approved in the 2024 budget, so the total cost of this equipment is just over $110,000, and it's within the budgeted amount. So staff is seeking council's approval of this tender authorization.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions or comments about this? Councilor Rayner?
Through the Director of Public Works, in the past, we have not had an enclosed cab, correct?
That is correct. The existing wide area mower that's 12 years old does not have a cab on it.
Okay, what is the price of the enclosed cab should we agree that this would be added to the lawnmower?
Through the mayor, I believe I heard what was the price of an open cab that was received?
What was the additional cost for this cab?
The enclosed cab price submitted by Premier Equipment was $110,439.20. Their price submitted for an open cab was $93,666.20, so just over $16,000 difference.
Okay. This enclosed cab, it is for something that's never been enclosed before. For that kind of money, because it's enclosed, it would have air?
Yeah, I believe it would have air and protection from the climate and other weather elements.
From the mayor, for that price, it also has a stereo with it, or what?
Through the mayor to Councilor Rayner, I don't believe it has a stereo in it. I'm not 100% sure.
Do you, through the mayor to the director, do you feel that this is warranted on something that we've never had before?
Through the mayor to Councilor Rayner, I think as we reviewed the pricing that were submitted, I think staff is recommending the enclosed cab because it's basically the same price as what the other bid submission was for an open cab. And again, through a span of, the life cycle of the equipment for 12 to 13 years and an extra $16,000, staff is kind of recommending that so that the machine can be used during unfavorable weather like heat or any other smog conditions or any other climate conditions that may present to health and safety to workers.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the director again, you said smoke conditions like we had last year. Will this have an HVAC filtration system capable of removing that in the cab? I thought this would just be a standard cab. Has this got those features that it can filter the air coming in?
Through the mayor to Councilor Rayner, I don't believe it has those types of features, but a closed cab does provide better protection than an open cab.
It's just, to me, if the smoke is there, it's going to come in the cab, whether regardless, the smoke will end up being in the cab, and if there's no filtration system, it'll still be in the cab as if there was no cab on it. So I don't, unless it has a special ultrafiltration system to take out the particulate matter that would be a concern, this cab doesn't do that. So I'm just saying $16,000 is a fair bit of money for something we have never used or needed before. I've cut my grass for 60 years with an open tractor, and I only do it on sunny days and nice. You don't go out on a rainy day to cut grass. So I have difficulty with that kind of expenditure on something that is not utilized in bad weather. But then again, it's only my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Trombetta?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, through you to the Mr. Director, just curious, the existing mower, do we trade that in or do we keep it?
We actually put it on gov bids and auction it off.
Okay.
Councilor Roderick?
Through you, Mayor, to Director DePaula. I don't know if I have a question or just a comment. I think the closed cab is a fantastic idea for the health and well-being of our employees that would be utilizing it, and would assume that it would be something, like you said, on a heat day where when you're out cutting for 8 hours, 5 days a week, that Leisureplex is a large piece of property and would not necessarily be the short straw that would be the person utilizing that during the day, but perhaps the favorable situation to cut. So I'm all for the closed cab with the air conditioning, and I did the math, and it's probably about just over $1,000 per year if we have the same life cycle.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other questions or comments, the vote will be in front of you.
Support.
Thanks, Bill. And that resolution carries. Under number 3 of 13.3, Project Manager Ray Vachon and Director of Public Works and Recreation Mike DePaula. Recommendation Report PW-19-2024, Lincoln Street, Welland Street, and Niagara Street, Reconstruction Detail Design Budget Amendment BA 2024-07. Councilor Rayner, you have that resolution, please.
Move by myself the recommendation report. I know. I'll get to it. Moved by myself the recommendation report PW 19-2024 titled Lincoln Street, Welland Street, Niagara Street Reconstruction Detail Design Budget Amendment BA 2024-07 dated July 15, 2024 be received. And that Budget Amendment BA 2024-07 in the amount of $80,000 funded through a transfer from the capital reserve be approved.
Thank you. And someone to second that resolution? Councilor Chichok, thank you. Okay, Director, do you want to speak to that also, please?
Sure. Through Madam Mayor, thank you for this opportunity to explain the report. This report is kind of tied to the region's project, reconstruction of Region Road 63, Canberra Road in Wellandport. The limits of their project is basically from the main traffic signal in Wellandport at Region Road 27 heading east to the Wellandport Community Center, Wellandport Library. Back in the township completed a streetscape master plan. Whenever the region reconstructs a regional road, the municipality is responsible to pay for the sidewalks and the streetscaping aspects of a project. So in 2023, late 2023, the region retained R.J. Burnside through RFP process to start the design of that project. Township staff have been involved. At around the 30% design stage of that project, the consultant determined that in order to urbanize and reconstruct the regional road, the storm sewer outlet would have to go down Welland Street, which is the side street off of Canberra Road. The township does have money in the forecast for 2025 and other future years to complete those side streets that are currently in poor condition and narrow. Our plan was to do our own design in 2025 and then include our final design with the region's construction contract. But when we learned that the region's consultant has to design the storm sewer through the side streets, we thought it was a good opportunity and more cost efficient for us to get a price from R.J. Burnside to complete the design on the rest of the side streets. So we did that. So leveraging the region's RFP process, RJ Burnside gave us a proposal. The report lays out the cost of that proposal to complete the detailed design. It's around $68,000. We included some miscellaneous costs and a contingency for a total assignment of around $80,000. In our 2025 budget, we have $100,000 allocated for that design. So the purpose of this report is just to do a budget amendment to basically include $80,000 now instead of the $100,000 that's forecasted in 2025. And the reason why we need a budget amendment now is because when the design work is completed, the region will be invoicing us to pay our proportionate share. So that's the purpose of this report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to the Director. I'm glad to see that this is inching its way forward. Those streets are particularly in bad shape, and looking forward to a time when they can be brought to where they need to be. Is there any danger at all, if their project is still 1.5 to 2 years out, that the design, the engineering detailed design would be not applicable or perhaps need to be relooked at if there's such a large gap in time between the design to the actual implementation of the construction?
Oops. Through Mayor Ganan to Councillor Bradwick, yeah, there isn't really a lot of risk once the design is done and the region has enough funds budgeted for construction as well as the township, then they'll issue a tender call and get the work done. But there's not a lot of risk, as you pointed out.
I assume so, or you wouldn't have brought it forward, but I thought I'd ask. My layperson hat wasn't quite sure. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we've all walked on those roads, those of us who are out there, and we've also had some concerns about safety on those roads. So just the fact that we're now looking at them, I think, is critical. Councillor Chichok.
I only have to say that inching forward, I agree absolutely with everything that Councillor Braddock has brought forward in her statement, but inching forward would be the way that whole area, our largest hamlet, I guess you would call it, in West Lincoln, has had to wait to get any kind of improvements. And certainly the people who own the property in that small community have invested in their own private properties, and we pursued the gas station on the corner to make improvements, and that now has turned into something that is much more palatable. And as time goes on, if the township is about to renew the park, that's another feature, along with the library and the community center, in that walkable community. I think it's great to know that this whole streetscaping is going to finally come to fruition. My only question is any part of that community on common or shared services, water and sewer?
Through Mayor Ganan to Councillor Chichok, I'm not 100% sure if there's services out there. Pardon me?
They're all private.
Yeah, I believe they're all private, like sanitary and water services there. There's no municipal services.
I wondered that, but on those side streets, there certainly are tight lots, and if they're all on wells and septic systems, it's amazing that they, between the conferences of those creeks, rivers, whatever you want to call them, tributaries, there's not a lot of room. But I know a number of years ago, we were looking at our hamlets and reducing the amount of development we were allowing in them. In fact, took away hamlet status from some of ours, which were places where new construction possibly could happen. And when I see the infrastructure voids that we are facing in our urban areas, it would have been appropriate for us, may have been more appropriate for us to keep some lands in those hamlets as available. I know the province didn't want private services, but we're getting to the bottom of the barrel on how we're going to get some of these areas serviced. That's my comment. And Wellandport, without any problems, has a fairly substantial population that is serviced by private services. So just something to think about as we move forward and think about what we did yesterday that no longer applies to tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything further from anyone? Seeing nothing? You ready? Please vote, councillors.
Support?
Thank you, councillor. Pops up over there. Okay, so that also carries. So there are no reconsiderations this evening, and there is no notice of motion to rescind anything, so I'm going to 16, other business. Members of council for council remarks, and I'll start Councillor Bradworth on your side. Anything to say?
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, to bring the attention to our community in regards to the usage of our library. Certainly seeing a strong community interest in the programming that's taking place at the library. If you follow the social media from the West Lincoln Library, Public Library, you will see all the exciting programs that are happening. For example, in the month of May, there was 66 programs, and we had 850 attendants, as well as about 4,000 circulations that occurred during that month. So just something that we don't talk a lot about. If you maybe go through the minutes of our library board meetings, you will see that information, but just wanted to highlight that really good news.
And you're going to bring that information to AMO, right?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Anything, nothing this evening? Okay. Councillor Chichok?
I do, Madam Mayor. I have two comments. I guess this is the place I say them, and that is that the weather is supposed to be clear, at least not raining, for the rest of the week, which is a good thing, because on Friday is the event we all call out here at Dinner at the Dairy. And I'm sure that any of those who are lucky enough to get tickets for that event will enjoy themselves yet again at an opportunity to see a large cow, calf, and dairy operation close up and enjoy some milk and ice cream and a burger, probably. Unfortunately, no one else can go because the event is so popular. It's again sold out this year. So the news, or the point I would make to anybody who's not got a ticket yet, is apply early because the price is a whopping $0. The second thing...
just 1 second. Councillor Trombetta just asked, whose farm this year?
Oh, it's at Dave's, Dave Evans' old farm, but
you have to have tickets or you can't come.
And we don't, no one without a ticket can get in. So the point is that there's not a lot of advertising any longer because it would not be useful to show up because you're not getting past the front gate.
In fact, I would just like to say that they are reaching out to people who do have tickets. I received an email saying, if you're not planning to use your tickets, let us know because we can redistribute those. So if somebody did request tickets early and are no longer planning to go, that is an option to turn your tickets back in.
It's time to turn the tickets in, but you're right. It's usually very much oversubscribed. And for those that didn't get tickets, it's unfortunate, but next year will be even better, and next year, when you hear about it, get your tickets early. Secondly, just as a comment, which you'll probably hear much more of, is, as everyone knows, the International Plowing Match is coming to West Lincoln in September of 2025, and for that, there are still lots of opportunities to pick up volunteer positions, whether you're able-bodied or have limitations of mobility, etc. There will be lots of opportunity to volunteer your services for that event, which is the 2 weeks following our own fair. So it's going to need a lot more volunteers, and if you reach out to the fairgrounds office, you will be able to be directed to the right person. So that one's going to take about 1,000 volunteers.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Councillor Rayner, anything this evening? Councillor Riley, anything this evening?
Nothing additional to add, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I'm just going to add that tomorrow, I think, is the first of the music market and parket, and I think I probably have those wrong, I'm not sure. But in any case, it is the beginning of our summer activities going on at our community center outdoors. Also, many movie nights coming up. So keep watching social media and keep watching your emails, and you will see much more advertising about that. But hopefully tomorrow is not like today, although the weather does not sound very promising in terms of another possibility of thunderstorm. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, 16.2, Councillor Riley, you have the floor on that one, sir. Improving assessment growth and prosperity. Would you like to move it? And do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Okay, so I'll put your name in then. We weren't certain that the technology would allow for you to actually move it, but please go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I guess that I move that staff are hereby authorized to send a letter to the Region of Niagara in the Province of Ontario, and that that all regional councillors, MPPs, and their appropriate staff be included in the correspondence, and that the letter requests assistance with improving efficiencies with how the Region of Niagara approves its planning for applications for developments happening within the Township of West Lincoln. And that, and excuse me, sorry, don't have my glasses with me. They end up getting misplaced in the end, so I'm trying to read this off a really small piece of paper here. And that it further be requested. Actually, Madam Mayor, if it's not too much to ask, could you read that last one for me?
I will do that.
I really wish I had my glasses and then they got misplaced in the bag there, and I just pulled them out. I couldn't find them again after I put them back down.
Okay.
So
no worries.
I got a flashlight on it. I got a flashlight. I think I can read this. My apologies. That it further be requested that the Region of Niagara and the Province of Ontario provide urgent and immediate financial assistance to support all costs associated with resolving the infrastructure constraints, which is preventing the development of land intended for housing within the urban boundary areas in the Township of West Lincoln.
Okay, so thank you. Someone to second that, please. Councillor Trombetta, thank you.
My eyesight isn't as good as it used to be, I guess. Indication. Turn 40 and
All
I started to go a
right.
little.
You might need to start wearing them more permanently. In any case,
Yes, I see.
so I'm going to ask if there are any questions or comments about this. Okay. So the one thing that I'm going to ask, Councillor, is that since the region no longer approves our planning applications as such, we do know, Councillor Witteveen and I, that it actually is the capital cost allocations that have been the area of constraint. So I'm going to ask if we can consider a friendly amendment to change your planning applications to capital cost allocations for infrastructure. Would that work?
Sure. That definitely would work, and I could speak a little bit more to kind of the thought process as well.
Okay, please do that.
That definitely. Yeah, and so part of the reason behind driving this is also bringing attention to the fact that we haven't had a whole lot of development in our community. We've had a lot of talk about development, but we actually haven't seen much development. And the further you dig into and try to understand the process and the procedures that are kind of in the way, our biggest issue, Madam Mayor, you and I have chatted several times about trying to figure out how we're going to navigate and tackle this infrastructure issue. From things from trying to get the pipes in the ground and get the water flowing one way to the other and everything else. And so I'm hoping that we can get support from all of our regional counterparts to ensure that they're doing everything they can to ensure that our developers, when they reach out to them for support, that they're getting the same treatment as other developers throughout the region getting, but also ensuring that we're also being prioritized and addressing the financial cost of this, because we have a lot of opportunities to grow, but we can't grow and we can't combat the financial aspect of it that is impacting residents. We've seen this year with entering a year where we're going to be in a negative assessment growth, where now that's going to actually put the extra burden on the local, the current residents, and not just the ones that are moving in, because we have no one moving in. We got no houses. So I'm hoping that this kind of motivates a few things. I'm hoping this also brings attention, something we've all talked about before, in addressing the province and the bigger role they need to play in this, and hopefully they can assess that. And we're kind of saying, put your money where your mouth is. They're saying, Ontario is a place to grow, a place to raise a family, and we want to see that support. And the small municipalities like ours can't afford to front this ourselves, so we want to see a little bit more investment from the province. And I'm hoping this kind of sparks that opportunity.
Okay, so the reason that I supported this being placed on the agenda tonight is multi-pronged. First of all, the thing that I talked to each of the councillors about individually today, that some of the Niagara municipalities are looking at doing, is one approach to that. This would be a second. Our third was our Roma presentation, actually, that already happened, where we started to already speak with the ministries about our infrastructure needs. And the fourth, and moving forward, are our AMO presentations that we already have ready and prepared, as I spoke to in my presentation earlier, all of these things are sort of pointing in the same direction and trying to hit at our need for infrastructure from all different angles. So I think we understand that. I'm going to look to see if anybody else has some comments. Councillor Chichok.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are many reasons to be concerned about the cost of housing. We've certainly seen a big change in development charges, which put an impact onto municipalities. As was just shown in a report presented by our treasurer, it was $240,000 just this year alone on things that we can no longer charge for that are directly attributable to growth. So that $243,000 pales when you look at the cost of future infrastructure that has to be borne by municipalities. For municipalities which traditionally have limited capacity to increase their revenues, planning and funding an influx of housing, enabling infrastructure projects can stretch the limits of how much they can borrow and how much debt they can carry. In fast-growing parts of Canada, the cost of providing a full range of infrastructure to support new housing could exceed $100,000 per home. That information of $100,000 comes from the Canadian Federation of Municipalities and was recently released. If that's the kind of magnitude we're looking at, the kind of tweaking that has happened over the past 2.5 years to development charges and places to grow and have more houses faster and every other piece of legislation will no longer be affordable by municipalities, even at the hub of the GTA. So if that's the kind of costs that we're looking at, we definitely need to look at everyone getting into the pool, which is an article I just read, but it's talking about reports calling for more and innovative solutions and to fund municipal infrastructure and deliver it. And I would ask that we not limit ourselves to look at just the province, but we look at new and innovative ways to support infrastructure needs of growing communities such as ours.
Thank you.
So I hope that this may be a start, but I think it's not the only target we should be going for. And if we are going to go to AMO and make presentations, that we have to look at being creative and not just going with our hand out because it's likely we're going to come back with an empty hand because there isn't enough money to go around to every municipality that's going to be there with their hand out.
Oh, yes, everybody has needs. Okay, thank you. Anything further from anyone else? Okay, so currently, number one, the staff are hereby authorized to send a letter to the Region of Niagara and the Province of Ontario. That's a starting place. And that all regional councillors, MPPs, and their appropriate staff be included in the correspondence. And this is the one where I've suggested a friendly amendment, and Mr. Clerk, you can help with that, please. That the letter requests assistance with improving efficiencies with how the Region of Niagara approves, and I've stroked out its planning applications for developments and have put in capital cost allocations for infrastructure to allow for developments happening within the township. Do you want to play with that a little bit? We're a little bit betwixt and between. There are still some things that the region looks at in terms of planning, but they are no longer responsible in terms of being an approval authority, so.
To you, Mayor Ganan, how I have it written now is how the Region of Niagara approves its capital cost allocations for infrastructure to allow for developments happening within the Township of West Lincoln.
And that's what I suggested. Councillor Riley, is that sufficient for you?
That's very sufficient. I think that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so does that qualify, Mr. Clerk, as a friendly amendment? Okay, and is that okay with everybody else, just in terms of a friendly amendment? Okay, so then number 4 says that it further be requested that the Region of Niagara and the Province of Ontario provide urgent and immediate financial assistance to support all costs associated with resolving the infrastructure constraints, which is preventing the development of lands intended for housing. So the rest of that reads just much the same. You know, it's really about being more vocal as far as the start of this, I think. Councillor Chichok, go ahead again, please.
I think that's the one I take exception to. It's not just looking to the Region of Niagara and the Province of Ontario to provide urgent and immediate financial assistance, but to look at all opportunities, to look at all ways of developing funding opportunities for municipalities to fund infrastructure. Because if we're asking them and they don't have it, are we done?
Okay, so what would you like that to say then?
Well, if it's acceptable to both the mover and the seconder, I would suggest that we ask that the region and the province look at all innovative solutions for funding opportunities on infrastructure. Because it can't be.
That's fine with me.
It might be third party, it might be developers, it might be long-term borrowings. But
Okay.
when we're talking $100,000 per household, what is our development charges? And what did we struggle with? That's nothing compared to just the cost of putting a pipe in the ground.
Okay, so we'll work with the clerk.
So through the mayor to Councillor Chichok, just let me know if this is acceptable. That it further be requested that the region of Niagara and the province of Ontario to look into all possible avenues to provide urgent and immediate fiscal, and then the rest is the same. Is that acceptable to include that the province of Ontario to look into all possible avenues, or would you like more specific language?
I think we want to be as vague as possible because this is out of the box thinking. This is things we've never done before, but that's what it's going to take. It's like a transit system. It's got to have all options on the table.
So are you fine right now with what the clerk has suggested, Councillor? Or do you want to see it on the screen? Do you want it up? Can we get it up? Or is that too difficult to do that these days? Okay. Okay, so he's going to put it up, but don't vote. Just look at the wording and see before we vote, but that's the technical way to get it up here. That it further be requested that the region of Niagara and the province of Ontario, I think, take out the two. Look into all possible avenues to provide urgent and immediate financial assistance to support all costs associated.
Madam Mayor, I'd be happier with financial means, not assistance, but means, because it may not be.
Financial means, okay, so take out assistance and put in, you have to do the whole thing.
You do?
Oh, it's
Sorry.
it's the e-scribe thing, you know. Okay, so this is a look, don't vote. That it further be requested that the region of Niagara and the province of Ontario look into all possible avenues to provide urgent and immediate financial means to support all costs associated with resolving the infrastructure constraints. And then it goes on to say, which is preventing the development of lands intended for housing within the urban boundary areas in the township of West Lincoln. So the rest of it reads the same. Okay, so let's go back to Councillor Riley. Is that fine with you, Councillor?
That's fine with me. I think it's good in that situation. That,
Okay.
you know, as the councilor put it perfectly, you got to think outside the box. We're going to address this situation in our community. It's a bit of a crisis right now. If we got no development, then where are people supposed to move, and how are we supposed to keep the tax levy affordable and reasonable?
Got it, thank you. Councillor Chichok, are you satisfied with the wording now? And she is. So you want to, so the rest is not all up there, but we can vote anyway. It stops at which is, does it go further? Oh, there it's there. Okay, which is preventing the development of lands. Okay, so we're ready to vote? Council, please vote. You don't have it yet?
Support?
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, and that resolution carries. I'm not aware of any new items of business this evening unless somebody has something that they want to bring up. And so, seeing nothing further, that will take us into confidential. Councillor Riley, you have the resolution?
I do,
wait.
I do.
Just 1 second, please. Councillor Chichok has realized that she has a new item of business.
Your worship, there is a new item of business, an item of business that pertains to named individuals, and for that reason, it should be discussed in camera, but I would like to put that on the table as a new item of business and hope for the support of my colleagues so that we can discuss it in camera.
Okay.
So through the mayor to Councillor Chichok, I'll just need something vaguely summarizing what will be discussed, just in order to put the motion on the floor to discuss a new item of business. Council has to know or be aware of what
Yes,
is to be discussed.
it is pertaining to remuneration.
So we need a note.
And then through the mayor to Councillor Chichok, I'll just need a seconder now.
Okay, someone to second that? Councillor Bradford? Oh, Councillor Trombetta? Okay, let's go with Councillor Trombetta. we're going into confidential shortly.
So through the mayor to Councillor Chichok, just so she's aware, that a new item of business be added to the agenda in regards to remuneration. Is that acceptable?
But to be,
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
yes, go ahead.
Just speaking, is this regarding like council remuneration? Is this regarding remuneration within the corporation of staff? Like, do
It's
we get
named
clarity
people.
on that?
It's
It's named
a named person,
Okay.
okay?
It's
Which is the reason for going into confidential.
No, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if we had to be clear in terms of what side
Okay.
of,
So we
the
first
aisle was.
need to vote to allow a new item of business
Yes.
on
So
the agenda in the first place.
that'll come up.
So what's coming up is just accepting a new item of business. And that should be on your screen soon.
Should be.
Okay, so,
support.
thank you.
I hope so too.
Okay, so that carries, and so we will now move into confidential. So Councilor Riley, would you like to do the resolution, please?
Now, I can, but maybe with the adjustment there would be appropriate for the deputy clerk to maybe read that, because I got to add a new item there, and then there's going to be closed session exemptions he's going to have to address. I don't know what those are right now.
Okay, just
So-
1 second.
So through the mayor, just the rest of council. So right now, currently, Councillor Chichok has the floor. So that was her putting a new item of business on. So now she will make the
needs to
motion
have
to go into
to carry it
close.
into confidential.
To make the meeting to run more efficiently, we can run the motion in its entirety, just because we would have to come out and then read the motion and go back into confidential. To save time, we can just combine it to save everybody the speaking notes. I can read the motion if that is acceptable, if Councillor Riley will still move it.
Okay.
I think that would be
That's
a
fine.
great way.
Okay. Just give me 1 moment to add it to the motion
Okay,
here.
please do.
We need a bathroom too.
We will be, once we get in. And I'll go get my candy bucket.
That'd be good. My feet are freezing from
Okay, so,
So through the mayor to the rest of council, I will read now the resolution to go into confidential. This is still being moved by Councilor Riley, but just for simplicity's sake, I will be reading it. That the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to Section 239, bracket 2, close bracket of the Municipal Act 2001. 18.1, Director of Public Works and Recreation Mike DePaula, regarding potential facility lease contract proposal. The applicable closed session exemptions are as follows: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and a plan or instruction to be applied to negotiation. 18.2, Councillor Mike Rayner, regarding vacation accrual. This is for discussion. The applicable closed session exemptions are as follows: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. The final item here, 18.3, Councillor Joanne Chichok. This is regarding remuneration. Let me add that. The applicable closed session exemptions are personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. That is moved by Councillor Riley. I just need a seconder.
Councilor Broderick, thank you.
Councillor Broderick. The vote will be in front of you.
Okay, the vote to go into closed session.
Support.
Thank you. And okay, and that takes us into confidential. And thank you, people who need to leave. Okay, thank you. So we're back in open session. I'm going to go to the clerk for open session directives, so.
So through the mayor to the rest of council, that staff proceed as directed in closed session in regards to confidential items 18.1 and 18.3, and it be noted that 18.2 was pulled by the mover.
Okay, thank you. Mover? Councillor Bradrick, and seconder, Councillor Chichok. Will a vote come up, or are we going to, yeah? The vote is up in front of you.
Support.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, you've lost it? Do you want to just? No, I'm So are you're supporting, Councillor? Okay, so that resolution carries. And that takes us to bylaws. Councillor Rayner, you have the bylaws, please.
Yes, moved by myself that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2024-49 and 2024-50, and that the same shall be considered to be read a first, second, and third time with one reading, and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Okay, thank you. And someone to second the bylaws? Councillor Bradrick, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got Councillor Bradrick, Councillor Riley, thank you.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, so the bylaws will be in front of you shortly.
Support.
Thank you. And everybody else, if you have it in front of you, can vote, please. Okay, that resolution carries. The bylaws are in order. And so at the hour of 10:27, I'll adjourn this July meeting. We'll see you in August.